o'clock. These are waiting on me.
President Tom Morito, we are streaming.
Okay. I call this meeting to order. And I'm glad everyone is here who needs to be here. So we'll go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. But also like to acknowledge our tribal lands. We're grateful to acknowledge the Native peoples of whose homelands we gather, as well as the diverse and vibrant Native communities who make their home here today. I'd like to also ask for a moment of silence for those who have given their lives in service to their country. So we'll go ahead and do that. Okay. Dr. Albright, roll call.
Danella Stone, Rebecca Betson,
Here.
Joshua Martinez,
Here.
Heather Benavides,
Here.
Marikia Bowman, Courtney Jackson,
Here.
Ronaldo Tomorito.
Here. And we'll go ahead and call for an agenda adoption for our July 15, 2026 Board of Education meeting agenda. Do I have a motion and a second?
I move to adopt the July 15th, 2026 Board of Education meeting agenda. This is Member Jackson.
I will second. This is Board Member Benavides.
All right, Board Member Jackson, motion to adopt today's meeting agenda and with modifications. And Board Member Benavides. Was that an error? Okay. Board Member Benavides second. Can I get a roll call?
Rebecca Betson,
Yes.
Joshua Martinez,
Yes.
Benavides.
Yes.
Courtney Jackson.
Yes.
Ronaldo Tomorito.
Yes. All right, we'll go on to minutes approval. For our board meeting of education on July 1st, 2026, can I get a motion and a second?
I move that we approve the minutes from the Board of Education meeting held on July 1st, 2026. This is Board Member Benavides.
I'll second Member Jackson.
Okay, Board Member Benavides, motion to approve July 1st Board of Education minutes and the March 26th special minutes, and Board Member Jackson second. Can I have a roll call?
Rebecca Betson,
Here. Or yes.
Joshua Martinez.
Yes.
Heather Benavides,
Yes.
Courtney Jackson.
Yes.
Ronaldo Tomorito.
Yes. Thank you. We'll now move on to public forum. I'm going to give the floor over to our secretary, Heather Benavides, Board Member Benavides.
Thank you, President Tomorito. We welcome our guests who are joining us tonight for public forum. Thank you for taking the time to participate. When you signed up to speak, you were asked to review the rules and expectations for public forum, which our presiding officer will enforce. Under the New Mexico Open Meetings Act, our meeting agendas must clearly specify the items that will be discussed and voted on. For that reason, public forum is not a dialogue between speakers and board members, but rather an opportunity for the board to hear directly from members of our community. Speakers will be called in the order in which they signed up, whether attending in person or virtually. If you are here with us tonight, please come to the microphone at the back of the room when your name is called. Those joining us online will remain in the virtual waiting room until it is their turn to speak. We have set aside 45 minutes for public forum this evening, and if there are 22 or fewer speakers, Each person will have 2 minutes to speak. If there are more than 22 speakers, each person will have 1 minute. Tonight we have how many?
Eight.
Eight speakers. Thank you. When your time has expired, you will be asked to conclude your remarks so we can move on to the next speaker. If you feel you were unable to fully share your message, you are welcome to email the board at board@aps.edu. In addition, for those of you attending in person this evening, a representative from our service center is available to assist you. And we will host 2 times for public forum this evening. The second is during the agenda item 6 and is specifically for those guests speaking about Andalusia Natural Sciences Academy. And at this time, Mr. Gonzalez, will you introduce the speakers?
Thank you, Board Member Benavides. Our first speaker is in the room, Daniel Tafoya, and he'll be followed by Scott Schuker on Zoom. You'll have 2 minutes once you begin, Mr. Tafoya.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Tafoya. I spoke at many board meetings about retaliation and cover-up of issues reported to APS. I have reported several issues that APS Chief of Police said that they were looked into and unfounded, but yet they never asked for my evidence or my witnesses. Speaking at these board meetings finally I got attorneys hitting me up, the news, advocates, and other government agencies, which are now investigating, which is making me very happy because the truth is coming out. And I am telling everyone, if you are not heard here by APS, superintendent, board members, student services, APS police, keep fighting. There are other agencies that will listen to you and the truth will come out. Also, in February, 2 kids were almost killed by their parents due to neglect of APS police, APS staff members, and APD. The kids are doing very well, but we are now doing a fundraiser in New Mexico Reentry Center for grandparents raising grandchildren. It is September 5th. We're asking if anyone has grandparents raising grandchildren, you can contact New Mexico Reentry Center and we can sign you up to receive a nice gift basket. And if anyone wants to sponsor or donate, we are looking for sponsorship and donation. But Superintendent, APS Chief of Police, you guys don't investigate properly. You don't listen. You need to listen to your staff members. You need to listen to parents when they come up to you and report child abuse. Whether or not you feel it's true, you need to do a full investigation, not just listen to the principals or teachers that did it. You need to find out from witnesses. Listening to a principal and letting her say, oh, I already looked into it and I already investigate. Sometimes that's not the full investigation and it needs to go deeper and be done properly. Thank you, guys. Thank
you, sir. Our next speaker is on Zoom, Scott Schuker, I believe. You'll have 2 minutes once you begin speaking.
Thank you. My name is Scott Schuker, and I'm an APS teacher. And after 14 years of education, I never imagined I would be here saying that I am seriously considering leaving teaching, not because I no longer enjoy it, but because my experiences within this system have left me deeply discouraged, frustrated, exhausted, and questioning whether I can continue in the profession. This past year, I taught at Cleveland Middle School in a short-term position, successfully filling a critical need. When that same position ended to be filled again, I was not selected for rehire. I participated in the interview process and was not chosen for reasons I can only speculate on, because after several business days, the posting was removed and there has been no further communication from either the school or HR, as is typical but not acceptable. In addition, despite applying for multiple positions within the district for which I was highly qualified, I could not secure a single interview. Even now, I still have applications pending within APS with no acknowledgement. When I reached out to Human Resources, including its director, for assistance in improving my chances, I was repeatedly told that they could not provide support of any kind. For an educator who has dedicated 14 years to students, that lack of guidance was extremely disappointing. My concern is that APS has created a culture where experienced educators can feel overlooked, undervalued, and unsupported. My personal experience has left me questioning whether merit, dedication, and proven success in the classroom are receiving the recognition they deserve. No teacher, especially an APS employee, should have to work this hard to continue working. APS has not simply impacted my employment status. It has affected my belief in my future within the profession. I hope APS finally recognizes the importance of retaining experienced educators who have demonstrated commitment to their students and schools before more of them leave. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next Sorry, our next speaker is in the room, Dr. Sinello, followed by Mary Herrera.
Good evening, Madam President and members of the school board. I am an alternative health doctor and minister. 40 years ago, my family and I immigrated, infiltrated, and assimilated under the American constitutional law. 40 years ago, Muslim extremists immigrated, infiltrated, and now they want to eliminate our American constitutional law and replace it with their Islamic Sharia system, which is not compatible nor coexistence with our US laws. Did you know about 192 nations has an average governing documents of 17 to 19 years? In our nation, the United States of America have withstood 250 years with the governing document of our US Constitution. Do you ever wonder why? If taught in public schools, then the students, teachers, and staff would learn that Islamic Sharia system requires that no freedom of religion, nor freedom of speech, nor freedom of equal rights for women and LGBTQ. Are you aware of that? U.S. celebrates our nation's 250th anniversary with this thought from Noah Webster, the father of American Christian education, in its original Noah Webster Dictionary, 1828. Reflecting on the uniqueness of America, had this to say, and I quote, "The United States commenced their existence under circumstances wholly novel and an example in the history of nations. They commenced with civilization, with learning, with science, with constitution of free government, and with the best gift of God to man, the Christian religion," end quote. If you guys continue to teach the Sharia system, we will not have this opportunity for our students and for everybody who are citizens of the United States. Happy, safe Independence Year to us and our families and friends, and may God bless us all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is in the room, Mary Herrera.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, and superintendent. In 2026, the United States will mark its 250th anniversary. It's a rare moment in the life of a nation, one that invites all Americans to pause and reflect. Not only should we reflect on our history, but also on its contemporary significance. This anniversary isn't just about dates and documents. It's about people, places, and stories, millions of them. It's about how a group of colonies came together in 1776 to declare independence and how that moment set the course for the country we live in now. Reaching 250 years is a significant event for any nation. It offers a chance to learn more about how the United States began, how it grew, and how it has changed over time. Every era of American history has shaped the present in some way, from early settlements to westward expansion, from war and intervention to civic achievements and cultural growth. Understanding this long story helps people see how past events connect to the world around them today. America's 250th can be a unifying moment, not because everyone sees the past the same way, but because anniversaries help bring people together. They offer a shared starting point, whether through classroom activities, public programs, community service, or family conversations. This milestone is a chance for all Americans to learn more about the country and each other. The United States has changed a great deal over 2.5 centuries. One of the lessons of history is that every generation helps shape what comes next. America's 250th is not just a moment to look backward. It's also a time to think forward. It invites people of all ages to consider the following questions. What kind of America are we building together, and how will each of us help shape its future? Thank you.
Thank you. And our last speaker for this section of Public Forum will be Brian Laurent. And you'll have 2 minutes.
Good evening, Madam President, Superintendent Blakey, and members of the board. Thank you for your service to our community. My name is Brian Laurent, and I'm speaking to you today as a former 7th grade special education math teacher who taught here at APS. When the board reviewed the middle of year monitoring reports for interim goals 2.1 and 2.2 back in March, I urged you to push the administration to explain how they are supporting improved math outcomes at the elementary level, because we don't start teaching math in 6th grade. To your credit, Madam President and Board Member Martinez, you did just that. But the question needs to be asked again this evening because strategies to improve elementary math performance are once again absent from both monitoring reports. Also, I would appreciate clarification on what exactly is meant by specialized specialists and highly clear micro routines as noted on page 9 of the monitoring report for interim goal 2.2. Here's what's highly clear. In 2025, 16 APS elementary schools had rates of math proficiency in the single digits based on the state math assessment, which means that 9 out of every 10 students at those schools did not demonstrate understanding of math of on-grade standards. It is unacceptable to perpetuate a system that leaves so many students unprepared for higher level math, expect middle school teachers to erase multi-year achievement gaps in only 10 minutes of just-in-time prerequisite scaffolding, and then blame Algebra 1 as the gatekeeper to high school graduation, as the administration stated back in March. The data tells us that now is the time to prioritize high-quality math instruction and support for teachers at the elementary level. Otherwise, goal 2, the vision of our community, will never be met. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And President Tomorito, that completes the first section of public forum.
Thank you. We'll move on to item number 5. Student outcome focused governance. Tonight we'll have discussion on progress monitoring reports for interim goals 1.1 and 1.2 early literacy. Our presenters, oh, you're sitting real close. You scooted in. No, kidding. Superintendent, Dr. Gabriella Blakey, Dr. Randy Malhar, Deputy Superintendent Leadership and Learning, Sherry Jett, Chief Academic Officer, Anna Chavez, Associate Superintendent of Elementary Schools, and Thomas C. West. Oh, there's Thomas. Good to see you, Executive Director, Office of Accountability and Reporting. Did they tell you we missed you last time? Nobody. Okay, we are glad you're here. So go ahead, Dr. Blakey.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Before we begin tonight's progress monitoring, I want to provide a brief reminder about how our student outcome focused governance model is designed to work. Our long-term student outcome goals remain in place through 2028 and continue to be our destination that we are working toward. However, the interim goals were intentionally established to end in 2026. They are designed as milestones to help us measure whether we are on track during the first phase of our 5-year journey. Because those interim goals will conclude this year, we will be bringing forward in a future meeting a new set of interim goals. These are not new long-term goals, nor do they change the commitment to the 2028 outcomes. Instead, they will establish the next set of milestones that will guide our work and help us measure progress over the final 2 years as we work toward achieving the 2028 targets. Tonight's monitoring gives us an opportunity to reflect on our progress to date and transition to that next phase of our work with clear, measurable milestones that will keep us focused on improving outcomes for our students. Our interim goals 1.1 and 1.2 look at reading, and I am pleased to report that we have met our reading goals. This past school year, our first grade students reached 29.2% proficiency, which is well above our interim target of 23%. Our second grade students reached 33% proficiency, which is exceeding our target of 24.3%. These results reflect steady growth over the past 3 years and demonstrate that our early literacy initiatives are moving us in the right direction. We saw encouraging gains among several student groups, but we did not see that same growth in our second graders. And that's a signal to us that we can't ignore. We need to better understand what is happening with students meeting second grade standards and make adjustments necessary to ensure that our instructional supports and interventions are leading to sustained progress for all of our students. You will see many of the continued strategies being used in the classroom continuing because the data is showing that these strategies are working. We do want to increase the stability for our teachers. So as strategies do show they are effective, there is no need to change direction, but rather to enhance what we are doing. So the team and I look forward to discussing these results of 1.1 and 1.2 and answer any questions that you may have of us.
Who wants to go first? Rebecca, you look anxious.
I can go first.
Go
I'm not super anxious really. I'm still digesting this. First of all, I want to say, you know, good job. It seems like we're moving in the right direction. I am a little apprehensive because we changed the test. So I'm still not 100% on board that it is aligned, and I'm hoping it is, because that would be great news. I guess in looking at this, there's a few things that pop out to me. One is a comment where I'm seeing under the strategies, it says principal coaching. I know in my time in a classroom, I can't imagine the principal has time to do much coaching, just because there's so many other things that are involved in the daily running of a school. So I'm just wondering, as a strategy, how effective principal coaching is going to be. And that's more of a comment, or I don't know if you guys have like an example of what principals are going to do coaching. Because I know principals are so busy. I mean, if a lot of times they can't even run out to the meetings they're supposed to be at the district level because they're handling so many other things in the school. So what does principal coaching look like?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Duran-Blakey. Thank you for the question. Our principal coaching is focused with our assistant superintendents and associate superintendent coaching our principals in the work of the 90-day plan and essential practices within the Excel rubric. What we focus on during those coaching visits has been redesigned, revamped, realigned to this work of our 90-day plan. We have TITES that we will be discussing. It is aligned with their professional development plan, and it also focuses on helping the principal and their leadership capabilities and capacity when speaking with their instructional council and collaborating with them in their instructional work for their classrooms.
Okay, so it sounds like it's more between the principal and the associate superintendent. They're going to be getting together and talking in a room about.
Yes.
Okay, all right. The other question I had is, I was looking back at a progress monitoring from a year ago, actually, June of 2025. And I'm not seeing any root causes in this report, but they were in that report. Where are the root causes?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Duran-Blakey. Typically, we do a root cause analysis when we have not met our goal. However, it is our plan at the beginning of this year with our beginning of year interim data that we will do a root cause on our previous strategies. We will also take a look at our schools who had high growth to figure out what strategies helped with that growth. And we will select from that data analysis of what our ongoing progress monitoring strategies will be.
Thank you. I have other questions, but I'll wait. And if there's time, I can come back.
Madam President.
Member Martinez.
Yeah. Kind of a follow-up to Member Benson's questions. So the principal coaching, is that in all schools, or which schools do principals get this coaching from the assistant superintendents or associate superintendents?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Duran-Blakey, thank you for the question. Our coaching, it follows our performance framework. So our schools are in priority, emerging, distinction, acceleration, and depending on their level is what determines how many coaching sessions they have. So the principal supervisor has already set up all of their coaching visits for the first semester. Priority schools do receive coaching once a month, and then emerging schools have coaching 4 times a year, and then distinction and acceleration have twice a year or once a year.
Thank you.
Oh, sure.
Hi, thank you so much for being here, and this is wonderful news. And I know you all have this information, and I didn't find it in the presentation. So can you provide the schools that demonstrated the strongest gains? And if that doesn't have to happen right now, but I'm curious what type of collaboration is happening with the schools and the teachers in general to kind of trade secrets and methods and the things that are working so that they can, spread and they can share the wealth.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Duran Blakey, we have that data on those schools. We'll get that to you so you can look at it.
Thank you.
At your leisure.
Mhm.
I'm going to defer to Associate Chavez to explain the second part of the question.
Thank you. So yes, during our root cause analysis, once our beginning of year information comes in, we will definitely pull our 10 schools who we are going to be happy to congratulate and recognize at the beginning of the year with our principals. Our plan is our executive director will go out to these schools and take inventory of what they feel their strategy lent to their growth and to their progress. And what we will do as an elementary team is gather all of those strategies, figure out what is replicable, figure out what is sustainable, and then recommend those to our associates and to Chief Jett and to Deputy Mallerwine to figure out what to push forward next.
Fantastic, thank you.
Member Jackson.
Thank you. I have two questions, and I'd like to thank Board Member Betson because you took one of mine, but I'm going to tail on to the end of yours because I did also kind of hone in on the principal issue because the report is showing that the principals were reporting that there was difficulty collecting the information for multiple systems. And your response to that was that you were going to align the instructional, like what you were looking for, that you were going to align that, which I think is very appropriate. So my question is, how are you going to make sure that the principal coaching, like the learning labs, the GLAD training, all of this training that you're doing, how are we going to ensure that that is changing student outcomes and not just merely increasing adult participation?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Duran Blakey. The state of our strategies, as we looked at it from beginning of year to end of year, we have started to figure out which ones we are going to continue depending on if they had a high return on investment and if those strategies yielded high growth. So I anticipate when we come back in the beginning of the year, some of these strategies may exit either because they aren't as efficient as we need them to be, or we have found higher leverage strategies to implement into our progress monitoring.
Okay, so I'm taking from your answer, sorry, may I? Okay. I'm taking from your answer that you are collecting data and information from these different strategies that you're using to ensure that the ones that you use more often are actually going to translate to improvement in these outcomes.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Duran Blakey. Yes, ma'am. We will include those pieces in our root cause analysis, not only with our student data, but also with our strategy information and feedback from the participants and figure out what worked, what didn't work, and then we will develop supports and strategies moving forward.
Thank you.
Okay, and then I'll go back to,
We're going back this way.
no, go ahead.
Oh, do I get to ask my
Yeah,
second?
go
Okay, cool. Okay, so coming off of the principals, I do want to just really take a moment to really highlight the fact that this is a great report. Like, congratulations to you, the teachers, the students for showing proficiency. And I mean, I think it's a great testament to when you stay focused on clear goals and work towards those, like we're actually bearing fruit. So one thing that I really wanted to point out, and I'm just focusing on goal 1.1, like just so you guys can zero in on that. is that the strongest gains were among our Native American students, our African American students, and our economically disadvantaged. And if I could just take a moment, the report identifies that the Native American students increased by 12.3 points. African American students were up by 11.8 points. Economically disadvantaged students were up by 11.7. English language learners were up by 9.7, and our students with disabilities were up by 3.7. So, I mean, congratulations, like, well done. It's been a year of strategically thinking through these issues, and I just want to commend you. So leaning into that, my next question is, what do you attribute, what specific practices do you believe contributed to the strong gains among those specific cohorts, Native American, African American, and the economically disadvantaged?
Madam President, members, Superintendent Duran Blakey. First of all, I would say one thing, the number one thing that contributed to those results is a collaborative effort from our learning department and our leadership department, collaborating, getting on the same page, and intentional effort to do it. I think both of those departments are getting better daily, and we expect to have more gains in the future. On top of that, we know that our Yazzie Martinez kids learn just like our rest of our kids do. So we're really confident when we look at the strategies and what Associate Superintendent Chavez said about looking at the strategy, seeing what's working, doubling down on what's working, and eliminating things that aren't working, and being very intentional what we do in the classroom. But on top of that, I would say our culture of care work, creating a sense of belonging where our kids that have in the past came to school, couldn't see themselves in school, didn't feel comfortable. That culture of care work is creating a sense of belonging where the adolescent brain, for example, or the elementary brain, those kids are more learner ready. And we know that they have all the capabilities in the world to learn. They just couldn't really fit in or see themselves in school a lot of times. And we believe that culture of care is not only increasing, we're hoping that we'll continue to increase attendance, but letting those kids feel more comfortable at school, so that the strategies, they're more capable of implementing the strategies and learning at the same as the rest of the students.
And President, members of the board, Member Jackson, I'd like to add to that I think that in education, we often want something to be like a singular answer, like, oh, we figured this out, now this works. But there's so many different factors that really influence what happens in the classroom. The primary is the teacher, right? So I think that a lot of the work that our teachers have been doing, particularly focused on reading at elementary, has really shown results in changing outcomes for our students. I don't think it would be fair for us to not talk about the amount of investment that our state has done on structured literacy and in reading. And I think that as a district and as the largest district in the state, having the state, kind of from the state to the districts, really be focused in this sense has really helped us as a state kind of all be focused on the same page of what we're doing for structured literacy. I do see, even though we'll be talking about 2.1 next, the efforts that the legislature is making on now looking at math, I do think will help us as a district to really start looking at how we take legislation and then localize it to make it reality in our district. And I think what we're seeing with structured literacy particularly is a lot of effort that has been made on the part of the state. As you know, we have our summer reading institutes that are happening, and I think a lot of our students who have been left behind have been able to participate in that the past couple summers, which has really made a difference as well. And in our elementary schools, I think that the transformation in relooking at them kind of started earlier. So, we'll have the top schools, the teacher, you have to remember too, and we'll send the list of the schools that are seeing higher results. But many of these schools have the model where they have an extra hour of professional development for teachers during the day. And then all of our schools now have Genius Hours. So I don't think there's one answer. However, it's how do we systematize all of these things we know work and then make it work in the classroom and get to supporting the teachers who are the closest to the students.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And I, as you were speaking, I recalled a progress monitoring that we had, I think it was 2 years ago. And I remember you saying at the time that we sleep, creep, and then leap. And I think that last year was maybe a creep year. And I'm excited. I'm like looking forward to next year. I feel like next year is going to be the leap year. And so I'm, I don't know, I guess I'm just an internal cheerleader. I'm just so proud of the work that you guys have done. And I'm looking forward to the leap next year. So thank you.
My question. I feel that first grade is a real critical time, and the entry to schools, kindergarten needs even more so. But I really want to know, how are we, as we increase with our proficiency in first grade, what long-term strategy is in place to ensure parents are equipped as partners in maintaining and accelerating student achievement, particularly for students who need additional support? I think we were just talking about that earlier, Superintendent and I. It would be great to have partners, especially with parents, that they are trained and informed also to understand when they're at home reading with their child, and also recognizing, does my child need more help? Do they need to be accelerated in their reading? I know raising 3 kids that were gifted, I always had to be on top with a teacher to make sure that those standards were being followed and how I was going to implement that with the teacher. So if you could share a little bit on that particular piece on how you are equipping parents.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Duran Blakey. Currently, our families engage in family or parent-teacher conferences through the year. What we are taking a look at is the responsibility of the teacher constantly communicating with their families on their students' growth. Those are really great opportunities to not only update the progress of the student with their family, but also giving them tips and resources that can help at home. And then we can figure out systems either with our community school coordinators, our student success systems resource teachers that can help get those resources out to our families. So as of right now, conferences is our highest or our most influential lever that we have right now. However, we are working to figure out how can that be more consistent. Right now it's twice a year and we have 3 grading periods. So we're trying to figure out some innovative ways for teachers to reach out to their families, their students' families more often.
And I just want to make sure it's not one-way communication, that we are also listening and making sure that parents truly understand what this looks like at home. We talked about home learning environments earlier. You know, how does a parent create that within a home? I know that many times that instruction of learning shouldn't just stop in the schools. It needs to also go to home. It needs to go into a couple of other areas when we look at digital, the phones, a number of those things that we can help parents understand. How do we create the consequences or the length of time within a home environment so that we're not solely depending on schools to do that? Because it takes a responsibility on both sides. And I knew that as a parent, and many times I don't want it to be an excuse also that a parent doesn't do what they need to do. I just want to make sure that but they have to be partners in this whole thing. They have to know that this is my responsibility. This is what I need to do at home. But they also have to be acknowledged that great job. We're doing this together and this is how we're going to make these scores better. but there has to be an understanding. So yeah, I'm just leaving you with that. But thank you. We'll go on to Board Member
Okay.
Benson. Second round.
Whenever I'm listening to you, I'm thinking of like literacy nights and open house and stuff like that. That's what I'm thinking of. But okay, I have question. I was looking through the report, and the report acknowledges that some schools could not access GLAD training because they lacked adequate funds. Given that it is given our ELL outcomes, why was access to an identified strategy dependent on school level funding, and were high level ELL schools prioritized?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Duran Blakey, I would like Executive Director Kano, who is our expert in this area, so we can get you a incredibly accurate answer.
Thank you.
Board President, members of the board, Superintendent Duran Blakey, thank you for the question. So we have limited capacity as far as like how much our PD providers. So we did prioritize schools with higher needs. But the funds we use to pay for GLAD are actually our Title III funds. So we have to also allow anybody in the metro area. So we share those funds. So APS facilitates and makes the decisions, but we also share those funds with local APS and non-APS charters, as well as private schools who meet the federal requirements for English learner supports. So what we actually are doing is we're trying to centralize those costs so that it's not dependent on school funds. So we're actually trying to make it so that schools aren't using their local budgets, so they can prioritize those funds for other initiatives. But we are offering it to the capacity of those service providers. So it's open to pretty much any school. I don't know if that answers your question.
So like first come, first serve, if you sign up and there's room, you can go?
Yes. And what we do is we release it to the school. So we have like schools who are just about full school. And I know that those schools are going to have support. And also rolling out, you'll see in our next progress monitoring reports, as we report out on this, there'll be school level support. So in addition to the teachers being able to do the classroom training, school leaders, including like teaching and learning coaches, principals, will be able to participate in training so that they know how to support that work at their school. So looking at principals thinking about changing the way they run staff meetings, looking at what are the look fors in the classroom. So they're also supporting those instructional things and know what to look for and how it's directly related to English learner support. So those GLAD strategies are really English learner supports, but they also support diverse learners. And something that we're doing with those GLAD strategies is we're actually asking the PD provider to look at our high quality instructional materials. So teachers are learning how to implement SAVAS through GLAD, so that we're helping those teachers make those connections. So we're going to be in our second year of adoption with those materials. So there is some funding constraints, but it's more us really centralizing the cost so that as a district able to provide it as much as possible to full capacity, filling those seats and not putting it on the school cost. So it's actually being centralized. I hope that answers your question.
Well, and I appreciate that. I think that's a good thing, especially since we're using it as one of our strategies. We need to have it available to anybody and everybody who wants to use it. So thank you. Thank you. And one more question. Okay. Are we actually closing the gap whenever we're looking at our first graders? Do you think we're actually closing the gap, and what rate of growth is necessary to close it by third grade? And I'm thinking about our Martinez Yazzie plus African-American students. It looks like we're closing the gap. So I'm asking, are we actually closing it? And what do you think, what rate of growth would we need to have in order to be able to close it by the third grade?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Duran Blakey. So closing the gap, can I just ask a clarifying question? You're asking, are we closing the gap between our Yazzie Martinez and our non-Yazzie Martinez students?
Well, I mean, if you look at the data, most of our kids are Martinez Yazzie kids. I mean, it's a huge number. It's a small number that's not. So I think we might as well just, let's talk about the Martinez Yazzie kids, because I mean, we need to be working with our I don't want to say our weakest kids, but our kids that need the most help. And so, yeah,
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Durant Blakey. So our goal there is, our goal is to make sure that we're increasing their overall proficiency rates, right, by 10 percentage points. So that I can say that, are we on the way to do that? Our data is suggesting, by the data that we are showing in prior surrounding reports, that yes, we are on our way to getting that 10 percentage points. But in terms of the gap, there is no gap, right? Because measure against what? So we're not decreasing a gap, but what we're doing is making sure that we're increasing our percentage of our students in our schools that we believe can read, which will then lead to later life successes.
I mean, our gap would be when we're looking at our state compared to other states, there's a gap, right? And so we're wanting to bring our kids up to where is standard, I guess.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Durant Blakey. In that sense, yes. So for us to close a gap, we have to do better than Mississippi and the other states that are above us. And are we doing our part to make sure that our students are increasing what they know and can do? Yes. We're definitely doing our part. We do make up about 22%. I think that number might change a little bit of the total state population of public school students. So if numbers go up in APS, numbers go up in the state. So we are doing our part. And I think that's important because when we move up, many students move up, and that's really good for our state.
Okay, and do you know what rate of growth we would need to close the gap by third grade? Because I know third grade is like that. I don't know.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Durant Blakey. So if you could figure out what gap you want me to measure it against, I can do that. Yeah, but it's just, what's the gap? Are you asking about NAEP gap, or are you asking about, like, I just need to know what you want me to measure it against. But
I think I can try to help.
there you go.
Madam President, members of the board, I can try to help. So I think that what Mr. West is saying is that what you're speaking to is the national data that shows that New Mexico is at the bottom. That this data shows that our students are rising in math or in reading according to our state, according to the interim assessment, which we correlate to the state assessment, which will be the goal 1 data. The data that's used to determine the rankings of states is the NAEP data. So it's a different test that's used. So I think that's what Mr. West is saying. Are you saying it's the gap between the interim assessment and NAEP? Or is it overall, like, will we see NAEP scores go up? Is there a correlation between seeing this go up? Does that mean the NAEP scores will go up, which then would move New Mexico up on the list of proficiency? So it gets really complicated. I'm glad you asked the question because I think it's important for the public to know, because they're all watching our meeting tonight, that the rankings of state by state is a different tool than the state assessment, which is a different tool from what we're looking at with the interim assessments. So the NAEP test is done as a, what is it called? They don't pick everybody. It's a random sampling of students across the state that measures against other states.
I'm gonna think about that for a little bit. Thanks.
I'm good, thank you.
I'm good. You are good. Yeah. Wow. You are. Should we hold a spotlight on Josh when he comes in? I think many times, I'll just go on. I know that there is a gap that exists with children with disabilities, and it's getting up to that rate of, are we doing everything we need to for those kids? Are we making sure we have an adequate IEP? Are we making sure that that IEP is also communicated to teachers? What are those goals? What is that child's specific disability that may hinder in creating and achieving those goals? If you could just give me a little bit on how you do address that within your learning environments with taking the reading component, and do you make sure every teacher knows that IEP, they have an IEP, that they do know that the disability is this and how that affects reading? Just give me an example.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Duran Blakey, we do indeed emphasize the IEPs and provide those to the teachers. And as you know, an IEP is a really lengthy document. So typically it'll come forward in a modifications and accommodations document that we ensure every teacher not only receives, but understands how to implement in the classroom. In addition to that, a lot of our work over the past year moving forward is in terms of making sure that our special education students, in addition to being supported with their individual education plans, are getting access to grade level work. And that the IEP is not removing them from that requirement, but rather supporting them in that requirement. And so as we move forward, really helping instructionally how we ensure that the students are able to receive the scaffolds, the accommodations, so that they can achieve at the same level.
Can you also just tell me how, when you do see a kid that doesn't have an IEP, and how do you address when they're not meeting those scaffolding places, or how do you meet the need of that child?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Duran Blakey, I just want to clarify, a student without an IEP.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, very similarly to the way we would a student with an IEP. And so we're constantly looking at different assessments and the gathering evidence about student learning and making those adjustments in real time. And so I'm just thinking about some of the work that Associate Superintendent Chavez was mentioning in terms of how we really make sure our principals are equipped to go into a classroom and to look at what the teacher is doing, but also look at what the student is doing and what the student is producing, and how we use that to ensure that we are intervening at the right time in order to keep a student caught up.
Okay. Joshua, you have- okay.
Yes, Madam President. Kind of going back to President Tomarita's comment about parent engagement. I have a daughter who will be going into first grade, so looking forward to the leap year with her. And of course, we're active in her education. But I know Class Dojo is a tool that many teachers use, and is quite effective for, teachers will post pictures and assignments and different things. Is there a minimum requirement or any requirement at all for teachers to use Class Dojo? I've learned that, there's a lot of younger parents, and so it's an app and it's a whole kind of interactive text type tool. And so I think that could be a very effective way to communicate with our parents. But just curious about the requirements for teachers using Class Dojo.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Duran Blakey. Yes, it is a tool that many teachers use. They have the ability to use the resources that their community engages in and prefers. The requirements, there are outlines and there are guidelines of teacher communication with families. We can get that information for you. I believe it is listed in several areas, not only in their teacher evaluation within Domain 4, but also within our negotiated agreement and teacher responsibilities. So we can definitely get that to you. And I'm happy to be back on this topic because Board Member Betson had mentioned family literacy nights, all of those in-person times as well. We're really trying to push that as well in our technology H2 to create those relationships. That way, hopefully those other resources and tools are secondary mode, and we're really trying to focus on the face-to-face in-person opportunities.
I have just to include within parents and how are you also doing the reach out to grandparents? They do not have the skill for the web, and taking care of my own parents and how I am the advocate anytime it requires technology. I just need to know how we're doing this for grandparents because we have a huge number of grandparents that need supports and resources.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Duran Blakey. Absolutely. This is why it's so important to continue our in-person opportunities with all of our families. Many of our elementary schools have family liaisons. They also have community school coordinators that can help orchestrate and facilitate sharing of information and resources. We have wonderful front office staff, especially during registration time, that will hold open hours where people can come in. They can utilize our tools within our schools during registration time, or any other times. We have staff that will sit side by side and help upload. Our service center is also available for those kinds of supports as well. So I think it's a matter of our principals and our staff to know our families and what supports they will need, and make sure that we provide those regularly, and then with the check-ins. So it's really up, the schools have that opportunity to do that once they build their relationships in person.
I have one more to add on to that, and I just forgot it. So I'm gonna let Board Member Jackson state her question.
Sorry, I did come up with one more question, and Mr. West, this one is going to be for you. We've been talking a lot about tools and how tools can be used to evaluate our strategies. And I cannot find it in the document, but there was mention of the new data analysis protocol. And what I would love for you to just kind of elucidate is how you are using the data analysis protocol in order for the schools, the district, the teachers, staff. How are you using the protocol to better the strategies and better the outcomes?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Duran Blakey. So the APS data analysis protocol, I don't think is public at the moment, but it's on LinkedIn, but also
yes, okay.
I'm happy to say that our
On
senior
LinkedIn, everybody.
and our senior director of our strategic analysis and program research department, she actually just presented it at the Council of the Great City Schools Curriculum and Instruction Conference in Atlanta. And she got really good feedback, as well as it was well received. So to answer your question, so before we come in front of you, when data is available, we do meet. We do have a system we call Academic Cabinet. We do meet, and we actually have been using the protocol as a way to get us all to talk. So we use it as a way to have a common language, but also to really, the big part of it is it's illuminating biases, and also testing assumptions that we have. I always like to use, because I like to have self-deprecating humor, I guess. I like to use the fact that I was wrong many times, and what my predictions were for some of our student groups. And because I went through the protocol, I was able to talk it through, not only with myself, but with my colleagues, right? My colleagues, whether it's with the associate superintendents, assistant superintendents, my colleague in LCE, Chief Jet, we all go through it. So we've been doing it to make sure that we're learning it and we're doing it. And then the next step has been that our senior director, Aja Kleinert, also provided training to our 3 FTE, so our student success coordinators, our teaching and learning resource teachers, and our community school coordinators. Thank you. So we did provide that training as well. And we've also had principals that have been trained in it. So we're trying to make it the thing. So when people are like, because usually what happens is we're like, well, how do we do this? And so the idea of it is everything we do in strategic analysis and program research, it's a living document. So if people have suggestions, if it doesn't work, we change it. But yeah, so we're trying to make it so that anybody pulls up data, they can just grab this protocol and go through it. So it's catching fire, I guess that's the way to say it. Probably bad with the forest fires. But anyway, we're working on it, and it's going further. So thank you for the opportunity to highlight it.
You're welcome. I'm sure it was tagged somewhere in this report.
It's in the next.
Oh, it's in the next one. Okay, well, surprise. Okay. I'll ask it again. Yeah.
I just have one last comment and you can answer it if you want to. I know we talk about belonging and we talk about belonging for our students. How can we create that concept for parents? I really think that we often forget when we do it one way, we forget that, oh, maybe we need to do it for parents too. So if you could just either talk a little bit about it or maybe next time that could be a plan.
President and members of the board. I think that one of the things that I'd like to point out is that it is a place where I think we need to do more work and better work. And sometimes I don't know if it's the place that we know how to do the best. So I do say that in the sense of one place we're looking at really strengthening that work is with our community school impact coordinators. Because they do great work with the community and partners, and they're really working on how can they now use that to engage families, particularly in just how, parents have a lot of questions. How can we engage families? I know at a larger scale, just with this state, as we look at home visiting for families just from birth, how can we help with families? But I also would like to just throw out, not to change the question to the board, but I think that's a place for community engagement work to really deepen too, is the work of the board in reaching out to parents and families, because I think that could be maybe the connection of really, as you listen to your constituents and they are the parents and the families, how can we strengthen through maybe the community engagement committee? How do we engage families more in, just not necessarily knowledge of how to access the school, but I think sometimes we need to engage more in parenting questions that they have. And I mean, we speak a lot of like jargon and here's your reading report when you get back to school. And we just, they're like, thanks, but it doesn't even really, it's just a bunch of graphs. So I think that is a work where we can strengthen as a district, how we can really reach families better.
And I will take you up on the challenge. What's that, John?
Agreed.
Agreed. Did you have anything to say?
Yeah, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Duran Blakey. I didn't want to end this section of the night without drawing attention to our teachers. A lot of times we sit up here and we answer questions and we're very focused on the work we did because, to be fair, we feel like we're on the spot a little bit, but we do work, but all of our work is focused around how do we support the most critical layer of our staff, which is our teachers. And so I just didn't want this time to end without just saying that publicly for whoever's watching. The school board it's not lost on us, the hard work that goes on in the classroom. And it's our job to keep supporting that work, providing opportunities for learning, opportunities for making that work easier, because that work is hard. So I just wanted to draw some attention and publicly thank our staff who works hard K-12, even though tonight we're talking about 1 and 2 and reading, but I just wanted to not finish without saying that. So thank you for the airtime to do so.
Thank you. And as we begin the new year, gratitude goes a long ways and it can heal so much more than we realize. And I think if we just take that little concept and do it more often, you will see a big change. So thank you. Thank you. Next, did we conclude? We're getting a little deep and we solved some problems maybe, but let's go ahead, then we'll go to 5.2. Discussion on progress monitoring reports for interim goals 2.1 and 2.2. Math proficiency.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. As stated earlier, our interim goals 2.1 and 2.2 serve as our indicators of whether we are on track to achieve our 5-year goal of increasing 8th grade math proficiency, with a focus on our students identified in the Yazzie Martinez decision and African-American students. Our 6th grade students demonstrated double-digit growth from the beginning to the end of the school year. and our seventh grade students made some gains. We are encouraged by that growth because it shows that students are making progress. However, although they made growth, it is not enough growth to meet our interim math goals. Our sixth grade students in the targeted groups finished the year at a 1.4 percentage points below our interim target, and seventh grade students were at 1.1 percentage points below our target. These results tell us that while we are moving in an upward direction, it is not consistent and it is not for all students. We want to be very clear that this work is urgent. And when we asked our community what they wanted APS graduates to know and be able to do, they told us that they wanted their children to be proficient in math. And that is why this became one of our board goals. We made this commitment to our students, our families, and our community, and we have not yet met that commitment. This is an achievable goal, and our students deserve for us to do everything possible to get there. And as you will hear from our team, this year we are placing an even greater focus on middle school math. We will strengthen daily instruction, use student data to identify and address learning gaps sooner, increase collaboration with teachers to share effective practices, and provide our students with additional support that they need to be successful. We will continue to monitor our progress closely, making adjustments where needed, and holding ourselves accountable for delivering the results that our students and our community expect. And with that, our team and I look forward to discussing the results with you and answering any questions you may have on interim goals 2.1 and 2.2.
It's up to us now. Who wants to start first?
Go ahead. You want to go first?
Go ahead, Benavides.
Okay, thank you, President. You say Benavides? It's okay. I just wanted to make sure I had a reason to laugh.
Did.
Yeah.
You
No,
did.
it's fine.
You
It's
did.
fine.
Okay, sorry.
Yes, I'm sorry. This is very serious.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here this evening. Thank you for the presentation. And thank you, Dr. Blakey. Accountability is so important in everything we do. And it's good to acknowledge that we need work. We're not meeting the goal, as hard as that is to say. And I know it makes us all sad. And I know the students are working so hard. So my question is specific to interim goal 2.2. And just to orient everybody, it's the final bullet on page 5. But African-American students experienced a 5.6 percentage point decline in proficiency compared with last year. And so have you identified factors contributing to this? And can you let us all know what the strategies are to help them improve moving forward? Thank you.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Duran Blakey, Board Member Benavides, thank you for the question. Through a root cause analysis, we have identified that it's two-pronged. So our African-American students are not grasping concepts entering 6th grade. And when they're leaving 6th grade, they haven't grasped all the concepts. So we're seeing these results in 7th grade and 2.2 that you're talking about, which is really impacting their belief in how they can do the work. So we understand that we need to implement just-in-time scaffolds to support the students so that we could build their self-efficacy so that they can have a belief. Because right now, what we're seeing with the student data in iReady and also in our Panorama data, it's reflecting that their self-efficacy scores are low. And then we're also seeing that in our iReady scores as well with our African-American students.
Okay, can I do a quick follow-up? Can you just go a little deeper into, and I think it's sort of, it's implied and I think we kind of know, but for people watching at home, I know there's millions of them, kind of explain how the self-efficacy is going to help them as they're learning these concepts and what it is about this specific population that's needing this extra intervention in that area that you've identified.
Yes, ma'am. Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Duran Blakey, Board Member Benavides. It's a belief, right? So if you know 1 + 1 = 2, 2 + 2 = 4, but what is the square root of 4? And all of a sudden, if you start to get stuck on a certain concept, and when we start moving into algebraic thinking,
you start to not believe that you can do it. So that belief is gone, which means it's also going to impact perseverance. That's a whole, you'll see that in the report as well. But a few months ago, I think a couple of months ago, Goal 4 was reported on, and you saw the impact on secondary with the skills, habits, and mindset through the panorama data. You look at this report on how we are 1.4 percentage points below in 6th grade and 1.1 percentage points below in 7th grade on achieving our overall goal. We have to, if we build the just-in-time supports and create that belief and support the students in their self-efficacy, they're going to be more encouraged and willing to persevere more. But it's putting those supports in the classroom, making those real-time adjustments in order to do that.
Thank you.
President, members of the board, and Board Member Benavides, I just want to add to what Mr. Sanchez was saying too, is that sometimes when we look at these data, it is math data that we're looking at, but particularly in middle school students, sometimes it's not the math that is impacting these data. Meaning that if it is self-efficacy, for example, we might see students be absent more often. So we're seeing behaviors of our students, particularly in groups of students that either don't feel a sense of belonging at school, they don't have the self-efficacy. So like learning algebra concepts is kind of like down the road. They don't really even want to, they're like checked out, right? They're 12-year-olds that are checked out in being in school. And so I think that part of what we have to do to address math, yes, it is in math concepts beginning from elementary school to middle school. But middle school, particularly especially when we look at these subgroups and we see this connection to self-efficacy or a sense of belonging in school, we also know that it's where we struggle to have different activities for our students. There's not as many athletics to participate in for middle school students. There aren't as much co-curricular activities for students to participate in. And we know that the more that students can be in those things, especially at this age, you'll connect them in ways that then they're learning math without realizing. Just because their feeling about school has changed because they're going to school because they're excited to play basketball, not necessarily to go to math, but that is like the secondary draw, right? So I think that building that, particularly for middle school, there's just so much that needs to be done for us to reach our middle school students that unfortunately we're seeing come out in their academic gains or no gains that isn't as clear as elementary school when we're like, if we do structured literacy, then we'll see these gains in reading. In math at middle school, it's a little more complicated because 12-year-olds are complicated. And they start to show behaviors in different ways where they're checking out and kind of deciding, are they a school person or not? And we're not providing enough opportunities for them to really find that in their schools. So a lot of the work, yes, instructionally, middle school math concepts, what Mr. Sanchez is talking about, but pulling out, creating middle school to be a space where kids are drawn to, then they feel like they want to do better because now they're at a place where they feel that they want to be.
And Dr. Mullivan, were you going to say something? I just wanted to give you the opportunity to.
Of course.
Yeah, and you don't have to.
I've been here long enough. I know when the boss and one thing I did want to share, and it really connects a lot to what our superintendent just shared, is that we got to find these areas where kids can experience success at school because then they become more connected to school. One of our initiatives that we're going to be very intentional to push out into our schools for all of our kids that are identified as need is we have a really tight plan for high dosage tutoring next year. That is a little bit of one-on-one. It's very research-based, and we vetted some very accomplished vendors to come into our schools and do this. What we hope will happen is kids will have some success, and with success builds confidence. With confidence, it just kind of stacks wins on top of each other. It's not unlike our superintendent just explained, finding a place for a kid to connect, finding a place for a child to be successful. We're going to try and do this with our high dosage tutoring is a strong initiative. And we think that can get us a 1% gain and at minimum, meet the minimum standard, although we have expectations to pass that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Board Member Martinez.
Madam President, thank you. Just kind of following up on that, it's exciting to see that the panorama data is being useful in this specific population. In that I believe students are being truthful when answering these questions, especially as it relates to self-efficacy. The other thing, I had a meeting with the Family and Youth Department with the city last week, and they're moving towards more programs for middle schoolers. Exactly what Dr. Duran Blakey was mentioning. And so for these students who need extra help, are we focusing in on these students to let them know about these programs? They're after school programs, from what I believe. There's, all these extracurricular kind of activities that we're partnering with the city with that APS doesn't necessarily host or that doesn't necessarily lead, but the city has these programs in our schools. And so just wanted to draw attention to that and see how that connection can be made for these specific students with what Dr. Duran Blakey was speaking on.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Duran Blakey, Board Member Martinez. In the report, there's a few references to our middle school redesign. Our schools that are currently our 6 schools that just wrapped up cohort 1 of middle school redesign and our 9 who are oncoming. Those schools that have, many of those schools have community school impact coordinators. The principals have been meeting, not one-on-one, but as a team, as cohorts with folks from Next Education Workforce, not only on the teaming aspect, but on how do you bring in community partners into the teaming to support the building of interdisciplinary units and the exposure to the students of what else is out there in their school community. So that is one aspect that is happening not only through APS. Brian Garcia has been a big part of being the liaison between Next Education Workforce and our cohort principals, but also our community school impact coordinators are in communication with the county or the city to support our schools and getting the word out to our students.
I see Mr. Garcia on, so I don't know if he was going to say something.
Oh.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Duran Blakey, thank you so much. I will be in the room in the future. My apologies. Thank you so much for the opportunity to also let you know, in light of the question, that the out of school time effort is underway in reference to a collaborative process and working with the city as well as the county through the ABC Community School Partnership to essentially create a pre-K through 12 continuum to ensure that at all levels, with a particular focus at the middle school level with regards to student engagement, helping create a focus on both academic outcomes, but also engagement and enrichment for our students. And so the main goal with that is to ensure that we're not working in silos as 3 bureaucracies, but instead working in a unified way to ensure that all of our students are having their needs met. And this is all through an effort to collect student voice to ensure that our students are telling us and our families are telling us what they need in the area of out of school time experiences to support goal 2 and the effort that we're making and reporting out on tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Jackson.
Thank you. Okay, so reading the report, sorry, let me see how I'm going to frame this. There was a lot of discussion on strategies that we need to use. But what there wasn't really differentiation between how this how the data was coming to us. So like, for example, is it a small number of schools that are producing most of the improvement? Are the redesigned schools outperforming traditional schools? Are there some schools that might be experiencing serious declines, but those are hidden by the district average? So my question is particular to the redesigned schools and the traditional schools. How do we know, since there isn't really differentiated data in the report between the two, how do we know that the redesigned schools are, I keep saying this, bearing fruit, but how do we know that that is adding to improvement in student outcomes versus the traditional schools? And if we could use the data analysis protocol, that would be, no, I'm just kidding.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Duran, Board Member Jackson. When cohort 1 came on a year and a half ago, there are certain conditions that we were all trying to figure out. There has to be a shared, ideally we want a shared roster of 75% of the same students. So if Dr. Mallerwine, Ms. Jett, Chris West, and I are the group of teachers, we want 75% of the same students throughout the day that we're working with for, let's say, 2 class periods. So we had some system challenges at the beginning, right? Because we were all trying to figure this thing out. What we did see, and I'll give you 3 examples of student outcome data. Wilson Middle School, their attendance and math achievement both went up in their teaming. Hayes Middle School went up, and Hoover Middle School went up. And I'm talking about math. The LBJ, Tony Hillerman, and Grant were the other 3 schools that were part of cohort 1. I cannot speak to that data because right now I just can't remember it. I'll let Mr. West speak to it, or we could get it to you. But there were also some really profound examples of how redesign impacted not only self-efficacy and perseverance, but attendance. Have a great example out of Wilson Middle School. 2 young ladies got in a situation where they thought they might not be part of the 6th grade team. And they were in the principal's office saying, please make sure we get to stay with the team. But I think that's part of the beauty of redesign. It's setting the conditions, not only for the staff, changing the working conditions for the staff, but it's also changing the learning conditions for the students. And we're seeing that in multiple ways.
Okay, I was pausing to see if anybody, Mr. West does not want to, just kidding. So I want to kind of just push you a little further, maybe like, let's dive a little bit further into that, because the report also said that, and it's on page 7. And again, I'm just looking at goal 2.1. And the reason I'm kind of focusing in on goal 2.1 is because those 6th graders are the ones who will be our 8th graders when the goals end, right? So it's kind of like, we need to maybe focus, not that we don't focus on everyone, but those are the kids that are going to kind of, those are the ones that we have to close the gap on. So the report on page 7 said that the classroom depth and access to rigorous instruction varies considerably. So between the redesigned schools and their traditional schools, owing to the fact that we're kind of moving through to a complete, everybody to be in a redesign, how are we making sure that the rigor and the attention to the strategies that work is uniform and systematized based on the fact that there are essentially two different models that work right now. Does that make sense? Okay. Oh,
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Duran Blakey, thank you for the question. I would say, and then I'll hand it off to Associate Superintendent Sanchez, that regardless of the redesign environment or the traditional environment, our focus on high quality layer one standards-based instruction is at the heart of all of the work we're doing with middle school math. And the strategies that you see listed in the progress monitoring report are true across the environments. And so we do recognize that we value our redesign work and we're hoping to expand it, but there's still a core instructional piece that's happening regardless of the school structure.
Superintendent Duran Blakey, one of the core, it's still very early with our middle school model to really look at the data on what we can believe would be sustainable with that data. One of the things that is critical with math in particular is attendance. Being there every day, math kind of builds. And so we've seen with the research on this model and other places, attendance continues to increase as the model becomes more kind of foundational and solid. So we believe that'll bring an aspect. The other thing is it does create a sense of longing. Associate Superintendent Sanchez's example of kids like getting into getting in trouble like kids do at school, but then worrying, please don't take me off my team. That is common. That is, kids find a sense of belonging. They find a purpose in this team. The other layer that CAO Jet has been working hard on is upping the rigor in regards to the instructional framework that will be going into the class, that we're working with our teachers to create multidisciplinary units. That is more rigorous instruction. It also connects. We will also be working with our teacher on how to connect mathematics with real world relevance and giving it a little more context opposed to the abstract that kids think about math today. A lot of those things are possible by the environmental shift into the teaming model opposed to one teacher, one classroom model. Middle school, I was a mid-school math teacher, and I was a mid-school principal, just like our superintendent was a mid-school principal. Mid-school is complicated, and the math can get to a part in mid-school where you need a little bit of kind of savvy with it. Sometimes not all of our teachers have, but when you work in a team, then you can rely on each other people can work to their strengths, and then people can learn from others. Where teachers have been in a one classroom model, they only know what they know in isolation, but now you work with other teachers and you grow from each other collaboratively. All those pieces will come together and we'll be able to, we will pull the data and look at it. We will also get data is being pulled and disaggregated by our partners at ASU. As soon as that data is available, we will share that. Right now, it's very encouraging. We're seeing growth. We're seeing a lot of the things that I hoped when I came here we would see. We're seeing them, and we're seeing them robustly. So I hope that answers your question, but we will have more concrete data in the years to come as one level moves into year two and we bring in others, and then there's very intentional training, and as we're building capacity in our teaching and learning department, it'll all kind of come together and then accelerate.
Yes, you did answer my question. Two things popped into my head. Using the previous analogy, so I feel like what you're telling me is that we're in maybe a creep mode right now. I mean, would that be fair that we're
members of the board, Superintendent Duran Blakey, I think it could be called a creep mode. It's early and we're learning and we're building the environments, and there's always a period of time where it has to take root. So creep's a new term, but yes, I've heard, yeah, I'm learning it, but I think that's a good analysis. But I'll turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Sanchez as he can talk a little more deeper into what's going on specifically in some of the schools.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Duran, Blakey, Member Jackson. Earlier, Dr. Malloy talked about the hard work that the teachers are doing. I just want to shout out the hard work that the teachers in cohort 1 did. The way this model rolled out was it's a volunteer basis. So some of our teams might have started out with 2 teachers last year at this time, but maybe grew to 3 or 4. But with that being said, we have some schools, many schools in cohort 1, for example, I believe Wilson Middle School started out with a 6th grade team. Next year, they're going wall to wall. So creep, I think the creep for that cohort 1 was this year, right? And I think they're starting to accelerate. Similar stories are happening at LBJ. Similar stories are happening at Hoover, but it all started from a little spark of these amazing teachers who took a chance, and the experiences that they've had, the stories that they are telling on how this environment has changed their profession for them. And that these are folks, we have one teacher over at Wilson who I believe, I'm not going to say how many years she's been
50.
teaching. But we also have 50 folks who are in their student teacher experience or their first year teacher experience, and they couldn't imagine going into the profession without the team of adults around them. And then you hear the student experiences. That's what's amplifying this cohort 1 experience, and is actually starting to amplify the excitement with the schools in cohort 2 are starting to come into it. So the creep, it is creeping, but it looks like they're
Almost sleeping. We're okay. I have one more question, but I'll wait until.
Okay. Board Member Benson?
Yeah, thanks. Some vocabulary that I'm hoping you guys can tell me what it means. One of them was from Open Forum, specialized specialist. I would love to know what a specialized specialist is on page 9. It's under, let me see, I just found it a minute ago. Page 9 under 2.2, and it's down under the why it matters. Using, let me see, where is it? Okay. Utilizing strategic staffing and flexible grouping to embed multi-adult co-teaching ensures that specialized specialists push and rather than pulling students out. So what are those?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Duran Blakey, Board Member Betson. The teaming model is, like I explained earlier, wrapping a group of getting a good group of teachers to wrap around a group of students. But it's also getting our specialists, or specialized specialists, so our special ed teachers, our EL teachers, maybe it's a counselor, maybe it's a community school impact coordinator, to also be a part of the team who are supporting that group of 100 kids, and we are looking at grouping them specifically for the needs of the students. So that's where it's a push-in model with the specialists on the campus to support the team.
Okay. And then much of the action plan depends on additional collaboration and strategic staffing. Do schools currently have the personnel and time to implement these strategies with fidelity under their adapted budget?
President, members of the board, superintendent, or sorry. I can give you my keys. Board Member Betson, we actually this year in the budget for middle schools that were part of the teaming have allocated additional FTEs so that they are able to do the strategic staffing. So we did as a budget priority this year, our middle schools that are working with Associate Superintendent Sanchez on this do get extra FTE.
Okay, that's good. That's great. There were a couple questions, there were several questions that I sent in early, and some of the answers just, I didn't feel like I got an answer to my question. So you guys are gonna have to bear with me because I have my questions on one side and the answers over there, and then I kind of copied and pasted and created a new document. So my second question was about Native American students. Native American students also declined, and why I said also, because I had already asked a question about African American, but Courtney already asked that question pretty much for me, so thank you.
Together.
It sounds like our brains are, yeah. So Native American students also declined. How does this align with the APS obligation under Martinez-Yazzie decision, and what targeted supports are being implemented? And so you guys gave me an answer. You described what sounded like a universal tier 1 math strategy. So my question was about a targeted response for our Native American students because of the decline. What are we doing differently, specifically because Martinez-Yazzie subgroup declined? What are we doing differently for these kids? Because obviously what we're doing for everybody isn't necessarily hitting the target. So what are we doing differently for those kids?
Madam President, members. Clarifying question, please. When you're talking about declining, are you talking, I assume you're talking about 24-25 students to 25-26 students?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, actually, I think, no, I think we're talking about the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, the end of the year, wouldn't we?
Well, when I'm looking at the data, and I will preface this with, I don't see colors well, but when I'm looking at the data, this is one of the questions I had. It looks like our Yazzie, our Native American students are coming in, and to me, their BOI to their EOI, they've increased. And so we've seen growth there. The reason I asked that question is because when we look at the previous year, they did decrease. They came in lower than the Native American kids came in the year before. And so we're talking about two separate groups of kids there, but we talk about our kids in what I would call the cohort of kids this year. We did see growth. And it was when you looked at, and the reason I'm asking this is just to get clarity so I can provide the best possible answer for you.
So you're gonna have to really work with me because I have never been a data person, and this is really causing me to come out of my shell and look at data, because I'm like, okay, let me look at this graph and this chart and see what am I looking at. So it may be from last year to this year.
But
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and answer the question on what are we doing, because we are looking at first thing we're doing for all of our students is we're working very intentionally to get layer 1 instruction into the classroom, which is at grade level. Kids need consistent exposure to grade level standards. In addition to that, we are looking at real-time data to pull small groups and give them what we would call layer 2. We also, like I mentioned earlier about bringing in high dosage tutoring, we would identify any of our subgroups of need, the very specific kids within that subgroup, because we know not all kids in that subgroup might need it, and provide them that extra time on task during the school day so they can build that confidence within the subject matter. One thing with math is kids get very defeated and they just quit on it. But if you can get a kid a win, you can make a child feel a little more connected to the curriculum. And a lot of times that one-on-one interaction with adult can do that. We know our teachers are working incredibly hard with 24 kids, and it's really hard for them to get one-on-one. We bring in the high dosage tutoring and provide that, build some confidence, and then we stack wins with our kids in the classroom with that. So we're doing those multiple things very intentionally, not just for our Native American subgroups, but all of our Yazzie Martinez subgroups and really any kid that we identify in real time as need.
Okay. I mean, I guess, so I'm referring back, I'm thinking back to earlier in the year when we did the tribal consultation, and we sat in a room with a group of tribal leaders, and they were talking about math and how, you know, we say it's a universal language, but I'm sorry, math is a struggle for me sometimes. And how really we could get to our kids different ways. And some of it is even through art and different things. And I'm just thinking about those conversations and thinking about what, you know, we need to be thinking outside of the box if we're seeing, you know, we're wanting to reach all of these kids. And I know it's impossible. When you have a class of 25 kids, you can't do everything with every kid to meet every scenario, but it's just something that we should be keeping in mind for sure. So yeah. And then I had one other question. So, and it's about the strategies. And this was my question number 3 that I sent in, and about instructional strategies. What evidence demonstrates these approaches have already improved student outcomes in APS or comparable districts? And I thank you. I understand that the strategies that I think you guys are planning on using are the rationale is they're systematic, explicit instructions, and visual scaffolding. Let me see, I'm going to go back. Sorry. I understand the research-based rationale for systematic, explicit instruction and visual scaffolding. However, my question was not whether there is theoretical or cognitive science-based for these practices. I specifically asked for evidence demonstrating. So do we have other school districts comparable to APS, or have we used these strategies in APS where we're seeing that these are going to be good strategies for improving our math scores? Does that make sense? I'm sorry. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Duran Blakey, Member Betson, it does make sense. When we have schools that are successful, whether it be in literacy or math, we go there to study what were they doing. And last year, we learned a lot from specifically Grant Middle School and the work that they were doing, and other schools that were also modeling along these strategies that you see here. Some of this work comes from a theory called building thinking classrooms, where it really is having the students engage in multiple ways with the math concepts, so that rather than learning sort of the rules of negatives and positive numbers, for example, they're actively working with those numbers in real world scenarios, and they're working with it, as you can see in the concrete, representational and abstract. So it's a multi-tiered approach to that. And the evidence was pretty clear in our own district and Grant and other schools that were deploying these strategies. We could certainly do more research to get you sister districts that have had success, but you know, we do believe strongly that we're going to see success across our schools with these strategies.
Great. That's actually all I needed. I know that when I was teaching and I, you know, sat down with the kids and said, okay, here's your job. This is how much you're going to get paid. And this is how much you're making. Now let's find an apartment, and did all of that stuff. It made a lot more sense than just them trying to figure out a budget. And so, yeah, I like that you're, you know, they're using something that's actually real life. So thanks.
Okay, anyone else? No?
I have one more. Do you
Yeah,
want?
I'll do
asked
my
yours?
first.
Yeah.
Okay. Anytime we talk about middle school, I go to my key. Well, I don't know what to call him, but he's my youngest son, Nabahi. And he's been working in before and after school programs since he was 16, and he's 30, and it's been his first job. And everybody tells me he is very good with middle school students. I would love for him to be a teacher, but he knows how to gain their attention. So I posed a question to him. I said, Nabahi, can you tell me, why do you think middle schoolers are having a hard time with math? And his first thing is that attention. We're not grabbing their attention. The second thing he said, too many kids are using AI. to solve their problems, to work on math, and to do what's needed. Third, families don't understand the math and they can't support the kids. Fourth, he said, families are too busy and they're absent. So these kids don't have no direction on who to turn to, who to talk to, and who to get their supports from. I don't know if that helps, but he is my guru for middle school and he will tell me a lot. And so I often go to him when I have middle school issues, and he gave me 4 areas. So based on that, and I know AI is a real big problem, and I've heard that from teachers at Cibola, and they'll tell you majority of our summer school students retake topics, then all of a sudden they have a 92% when they were 0, but they're using AI. So I don't know how we're also combating that and what we're doing to offer or to erase or to get rid of. But if attention is a problem, that means internet has been used predominantly in so many things these kids do. And it's their resource for internet. My oldest son doesn't go to a doctor first, he goes to the internet. And then he goes to YouTube if he needs to learn how to fix brakes. And I'm going, oh God. Takes him 3 weeks, but he'll use it instead of going to an expert, to his grandfather. So technology is very big in all of these environments. So could you tell me, how are we looking at, just by citing these few problems, how can we do things differently?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Duran Blakey, President Tomarito. Fascinating question. I will tell you that the initiative that Superintendent Duran Blakey started with this middle school redesign has started. I didn't realize this until you started asking the question. It's actually started to solve many of the questions that you brought up. So with the redesign, we are allowing students to work with one another more often. And we're getting groups of teachers to collaborate with one another. So if Board Member Jackson is our math expert, and we've identified a group of students that need extra help, we're going to lighten her load and let Board Member Jackson work directly with students who need help. But also the students are sharing their work with others because they might know that at home, mom and dad might be working late and they don't get to see them. So they need to rely on their peers to get support. Now, also through celebrations that have been happening with the schools that are teaming, the community has been coming in. Hoover had, they created a movie of their Hawk's Nest, for example, and it filled the gym with their 6th graders. So seeing the parent involvement in a middle school like that, like blew my mind. During the holidays, Wilson Middle School had a family luncheon for their teaming kids. The entire gym was filled up. But it's not all about watching a movie and eating food. The students were sharing their experiences. So now the parents and the families are getting to engage with the work that is happening. So it's naturally building that help where if I struggled with math or reading or whatever it might be, but my peers in my classroom are supporting me, or I have extra teachers now, where if Board Member Jackson is the math teacher, but I also know that Dr. Mallerwine can help me with the same math problem because they've been collaborating. All of a sudden, I have 2 math teachers at that grade level instead of 1. So it's creating multiple entry points for the students to get support. As far as the AI thing, I don't know how to help with that one. But I do think that the family involvement I have seen in, like I said, we have a small cohort sampling, has increased.
Just to clarify, kind of one of the things, we've crossed over a little bit here. We talked a lot about goal 2, which is keeps me up at night. I mean, Associate Superintendent Sanchez has gotten text messages tonight about this. This is something that we're highly motivated to increase our math achievement in our district. But what we're doing that I would want to highlight, our teachers are doing, our site level leaders, our superintendency is doing, is we're not only trying to improve student achievement, we're also trying to do better things. A lot of times for decades in schools, we've just tried to do the same things better every year, and we keep running into the same barriers. What we're doing here in APS is we're trying to do better things, create better environments, create a different instructional framework so our kids are connecting, they're in the classroom learning to real world learning. That is going to, that brings the attention. We need to teach our kids how to use AI effectively. It's something we need to work on. And we need to help our teachers understand how to teach with AI as a reality. What your son said about families don't understand the math and families are busy. That's been a problem for a long time. I've always taught in very urban settings. I've always led schools in very urban settings. This is a common problem. But what we're doing in APS is we're trying to do better things, create a better environment where teachers aren't in isolation, when kids are not at a desk just staring at a whiteboard, where kids are collaborating, learning from each other, teachers are learning from each other. I just want to highlight that because there's not one silver bullet that is going to solve our math problem. It's the step forward into doing better things, trying new things that we've learned and being better every day. And that's our approach to what we're doing in math. And that's the team that has come to the table tonight to explain and provide you guys answers. And I do want to go, highlight teachers again, because that's where everything takes root. That's our most valued employee right there. That is our touch point with our kids. And we've seen teachers in this model do better things, and we're seeing better results.
Thank you. Board Member Jackson.
Thank you. I should have 2, if that's okay. Or I'll ask the first one. So when I first started, I mentioned that that I was focusing on these 6th graders because they are the ones who are going to be 8th grade when the goals are set to be reinstated. But what I also just realized was that this group of students were 1st and 2nd graders during COVID. And I'm curious as to whether or not that plays any sort of factor, plays any role as to their ability to maybe grasp these concepts, grasp proficiency. And now that they were the 1st and 2nd graders during COVID, this might be where, I'm going to hate to keep going back to it. We might be actually leaping sooner than we need to because we're kind of coming out of that phase. I don't know. I'm just kind of curious. It just.
President, members of the board member Jackson, and then Mr. West will probably start shaking his head and tell me that I'm wrong. But you are correct that these are the students who were online for school during their formative school years. So my nephew is just finished 6th grade in middle school at Jefferson. And so I remember when he was online trying to learn math on his Chromebook. And these students who are actually in 6th and 7th grade, if you look at any of their writing, it's like they have really poor writing usually because they also during the formative years of like writing and tracing letters and all of that were all online. So they didn't actually use pencils. So it's really interesting to watch them. I mean, I can send my nephew to you if you'd like to spend some time with him to see how interesting it is.
Writing a letter.
But I say that because although we think of this as like, oh, we're coming out of it, and we're like, you'll never come out of what kids experienced during that time. So it's really like this COVID slide that we talk about, that just because school came back into session, those students still never had those first and second grade years. And in fact, Dr. Mallerwein, as you know, came from outside the district. And when I told him, like, no, these kids were like, we weren't in school. So his state had different. So I was trying to explain to him, like, they weren't actually in school. That does impact student learning until forever. Like, it's never that it's just going to go away. So the catch up we have to do for those students is significantly different, because we, talk a lot about early childhood and getting kids in routines and school. These students didn't have that when they were in these early grades. So yes, particularly some of the groups of students that we're looking at that you've asked about this evening, we know from research that the pandemic hurt those students more than other groups of students. So there could be a correlation to student outcomes for our students who are from these groups, that then it's like a double whammy indicator for them that we already saw that this was going to happen, because the learning loss of the pandemic was particularly harder on some groups of students than others. And so, Mr. West, do you have anything to add to that? Yeah, so we do know that it's across the country too, that you see this group of students, particularly they are the 6th and 7th graders.
I think the acknowledgement of realizing that is critical. I mean, I'm not going to ask you again whether or not you think these strategies are going to work, because I think you're going to tell me that you think they will. But I think it's just right. It's important to acknowledge what our kids went through. And in fact, Ms. Sanchez, we were back there having a conversation about our kids. Is she still? Hi. We were having a conversation about how our kids were affected during COVID, right? So I have one more. Okay. This is in particular to our discussion about rigor. And because I think rigor's important to me, I'm always going to ask you about rigor, and I'm always going to ask how we're going to maintain that throughout. And one of the things that you mentioned was that rigor seemed to be increasing through teaming, because the expertise of the members of the team could kind of support each other. So specifically to one of your strategies about the just-in-time scaffolding, how can you assure me that, sorry, I got to find my little list here, that the just-in-time scaffolding will help the students access grade level work rather than unintentionally lowering the rigor or reducing the amount of grade level content they receive?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Duran Blakey, I think that's a really important question, because we are emphasizing at layer 1 the importance of students getting to their grade level standards and having access, but also acknowledging that there are some learning gaps that have to be filled. And so what this strategy does is, rather than stopping instruction for several days to go back and, let's say, teach a 5th grade unit because the student may be missing that prerequisite skill, it helps the teacher identify, what is that 5th grade skill? I'm just going to deal 5th and 6th grade example here. What is the 5th grade skill? How do I teach it really quickly? I'm thinking about, just as an example, positive and negative numbers. And that's dependent on understanding a number line, which we learn we learn in elementary school. So if the student is not drawing on their prerequisite knowledge of a number line, when they come to positive and negative numbers, it's going to be tricky. That doesn't require going all the way back and doing number lines all over, right? It just requires a quick demonstration of, remember the number line, remember where 0 is. The closer you get to 0, the bigger the number, the number you like. And so helping them do that, but it doesn't require decreasing the rigor. On the contrary, if once the teacher recognizes that gap, fills it, they can go directly back into the standards-based instruction. And then the grouping that's mentioned also adds to that strategy, because this is an opportunity. If there are some students who still persist in having that gap in their knowledge, the teacher can design the lesson just in time to say, okay, you three, we're going to continue to work on this so that they can ultimately move into the grade level access.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else? Thank you so much for taking the time to answer our questions. We appreciate it. I'll let you guys get up before we move on.
So, sorry, can I pause real quick? Sorry, not you guys. Miss Saucedo, I'm sorry, I said Sanchez. I meant Saucedo. I'm so sorry. Leslie.
Correction. All right, so we get to move on to item number 6. We're going to be doing things a little bit differently here. We're having our public hearing for our new charter school applicant. So, and the applicant is Andalusia Natural Science Academy. So I want to thank those who've come out to support this application. My name is Ronaldo Tomorito, and I am the president of Albuquerque Public School Board of Education. This is all for the record. I'm saying this just so you know. Today is, for those of you who may not know, is July 15th, 2026, and the time start is 7:03. I'm officially calling to order the public community input hearing regarding the proposed charter school application for Andalusia Natural Sciences Academy. This hearing is being held in accordance with the New Mexico Charter School Act, specifically Section 22-8B-6 of the New Mexico statutes annotated. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to provide the local community an opportunity to share input, support, or concerns regarding this application. This input will be directly factored into the final decision made by the full Board of Education. Before we begin, please note the following ground rules for an orderly meeting. We all love orderly meetings, especially us guys up here. So number 1, this hearing is being officially recorded and transcribed as required by the New Mexico law. Please speak clearly into the microphones when called. Number 2, in just a moment, we will open the floor to public comment. Guests were invited to sign up to speak virtually or in person by using the online portal starting at 8 a.m. Written feedback is also invited and can be sent to the boarded@aps.edu by the end of the business day on Friday, July 16th. 3, each speaker will speak, 17th, I'm sorry. 17th, Friday, July 17th. 3, each speaker will be strictly limited to 2 minutes if there are less than 23 speakers, and 1 minute for if there are 23 or more speakers. Number 4, please maintain a respectful environment. We welcome all viewpoints, but interruptions, yelling, or personal attacks will not be tolerated. Number 5, after public forum, the charter school team will make an introduction followed by a 20-minute presentation by the applicant, Andalusia Natural Sciences Academy. With that, we will all move into public forum.
Thank you, President Tomorito. We actually only have one person who signed up in the waiting room, and I'm trying to get them into the main room, and they are on Zoom.
Okay.
They're not currently responding.
Oh, no. They had no idea when we were gonna do this, probably.
Board President, I'll reach out to them and ask them to send their comments in writing.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Well, we'll just go ahead and move on then. The public comment period for the physical hearing is now concluded. For the record, any additional written comments or documents may be submitted to boarded@aps.edu until 5 p.m. this Friday. All written submissions will be included in the final official record. So we'll move on. 6.4 introductions by the APS charter school team. So I pass the floor onto Dr. Weiner.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Duran Blakey. As President Tomorito explained, tonight's hearing fulfills the public hearing requirement established under Section 22-8B-6 of the New Mexico Charter Schools Act, which requires the chartering authority to hold a public hearing to obtain information and community input before making a decision on a charter school application. Dr. Wine will briefly explain where tonight's hearing fits into the overall application review process.
Thank you. Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Duran Blakey. On June 1st, the applicant submitted its charter application to Albuquerque Public Schools. Since that time, the Charter Schools Office has completed a detailed review of the written application and conducted a capacity interview with the applicant team. The purpose of the capacity interview was to better understand the team's ability to implement the academic, organizational, financial, and governance plan described in the application. Tonight's hearing adds another important component to that review process by giving the board the opportunity to hear directly from the applicant and from members of the community. All of the information presented tonight, together with the written application, the capacity interview, and any written comments submitted during the public comment period, become part of the official record considered by the board. Following tonight's hearing, the Charter Schools Office will prepare a comprehensive analysis and recommendation report. That report will summarize the application, the capacity interview, tonight's public hearing, and the staff's analysis of the proposal. It will identify both the strengths of the application and any areas requiring additional consideration. The report shall be provided to the Board of Education and the applicant on or about August 6th.
The board is scheduled to consider the application at its public meeting on August 19th, where members may ask additional questions before deliberating and voting to approve with conditions, or deny the application. Thank you, and at this time, we would like to invite the representatives of Andalusia Natural Sciences Academy to begin their 20-minute presentation.
Just a side note real quick, after the 20-minute presentation, we will then formalize our discussion and ask the questions. Thank you.
Madam President, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Blakey. Good evening, and thank you for inviting us, letting us tonight appear before you to propose our newly proposed charter school, Andalusia Natural Sciences Academy, to be part of Albuquerque Public Schools. Our effort is to create a school that builds on the rich history of New Mexico to prepare our high school students for the future. This innovative model capitalizes on a rich heritage history part of New Mexico that has not been fully capitalized on. While doing so, we are incorporating multiple frameworks that have been used, but they have not been put together. We have been privileged to be part of New Mexico where this model can be implemented. And that is capitalizing on project-based learning, STEAM, artificial intelligence, especially the responsible use of artificial intelligence, relating all of this to cultural relevance and providing culturally responsive education to our students. My name is Rali Abul Hassan. I did my PhD in education from the Department of Language Literacy and Sociocultural Studies at UNM. And also I did my master's in comparative literature and cultural studies from UNM as well. Throughout my career as an educator in K-12 and college levels, I have been interested in lowering the cognitive load and implementing strategies and researching strategies that would help students internalize concepts that are difficult to internalize by breaking them into smaller pieces that can be helpful for them. My specific focus is creating and utilizing concept knowledge and creating shared background knowledge that the students can capitalize on in like to deal with educational concepts that they have in their classrooms. This charter school application is a collaborative effort between myself and a founding team that consists of many individuals who have good experience in education settings, both in K-12 settings and college settings. Our educational experience together adds up to more than 100 years of education experience. Most of us have had experiences in leadership in different capacities in schools and in college levels as well. We have, throughout this process of building this application, we have also created a network of educators, especially leaders in both traditional schools and charter schools. Those individuals are available for us to help us when needed, including members who have created charter schools in the past, and they have been offering services to monitor. We also intend, as we progress through this process, we also intend to seek help from existing organizations that provide guidance and support for individuals who have startups similar to this one, including CES, which is a cooperative education services, and individuals who have helped schools in the past to create charter schools to start. I'm sure you're familiar with Justin Traeger, who is willing to offer us support. And there will be other individuals that we will be contracting with. We also attend the CSP trainings, monthly trainings. We also will seek help from other sources that can monitor us through this process. Here with me today, one more member of the founding team, Mr. Christopher Smith. And I have Christopher from K-12. They can introduce themselves.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Barkley. My name is Christopher Moore. I am part of Vertex Education / K-12 Accounting. We specifically deal with finance and accounting for charter schools and districts in the state of New Mexico. We do serve several APS charter schools, and we have worked at opening new charter schools in the past couple of years. So we do have extensive knowledge and experience when it comes to the finance and accounting for not only charter schools, but new charter schools in the state of New Mexico. And we have been working diligently with the rest of the Andalusia team to make sure that we have a financial model that fits their goals, but also realize, the struggles that come with opening a new charter school and making sure that we can formulate alternative budgets just in case, initial projections, membership goals aren't met. And like I said, once again, making sure that we're following all the rules applicable to that area.
Hi, my name is Casey Smith. That's what I go by. I'm a special ed teacher here with APS. I've been with APS for over 15 years. My background is in special education and mostly in student support. I do have leadership experience and a master's in educational leadership. I also have a bachelor's degree in organizational psychology. My greatest areas of expertise is in understanding students, identifying barriers to success, building support systems, and helping students transition successfully into college, career, or life after high school otherwise. we are being a project-based school. I wanted to do a presentation on an example of a project that we would do as a school and how it would work. Picturing a school where students work on a project that brings several classes together. This project, students would choose a historic New Mexico building such as the Chemo Theater, San Miguel Mission, or different buildings from UNM's campus. They will study how ideas from the Al-Andalus movement through Spain, or moved through Spain and later helped shape the buildings here in New Mexico. Rather than studying each subject separately, students would learn by solving one authentic question or real-world problem. Every discipline would contribute to a different perspective to understanding and recreating a historic New Mexico landmark. That's what would make this project truly interdisciplinary. Okay. This project covers standards across several classes. In science and engineering, students would study building materials, heating and cooling, arches, foundations, and how structures stay strong. They would identify real design problems, and they would work within certain limits and create a solution based on what they're studying all together. And they would combine all the disciplines with that. In math, students would scale ratio shapes, measurements, area, volume, and building plans. In English, they would research, use reliable evidence, write a clear report on what they're studying and learning, and present what they learned. New Mexico history and world history would help students understand how ideas moved between cultures and influenced our state as well. This project aligns with standards in engineering design, geometric and mathematical modeling, research and theoretical writing, as well as informed reading and speaking as well. Students would also use CAD design software and responsible AI to create a digital model or a blueprint and a physical scale model as well. They also would check for information from AI using trusted sources and verify that they are using AI properly. Students can learn and show what they know through reading videos, writing, speaking, designing, and building. This supports different learning needs, including the student groups named in the Ozzie Martinez. And instead of teaching these students, or instead of teaching these standards in a isolated way individually in each class, students would demonstrate mastery by copying or applying them together in one learning experience. So our vision would be that students would learn from the past, use today's tools, and work together to build something meaningful for the future. So that would be an example of a project that we would do.
Madam President, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Blakey. So the focus on the Al-Andalus and its legacy in New Mexico provides this one unique lens that can provide one context through which all disciplines or classes can be taught. This creates one shared knowledge among all students. Gradually, this shared knowledge becomes the funds of knowledge that the students will utilize. While students move from one class to another class in the same grade level, and as they move from one grade to another grade while capitalizing on one theme, they will resort to this one shared knowledge. And this will help the students as they internalize academic concepts that will help reduce the cognitive load that the students they have to deal with. Also, this will trigger the schema of the students, like the schema that the students have developed over those years. All of these concepts are grounded in research, and this shows improvement in students' engagement, students' scores and, more importantly, their total experience in school settings. So this unified lens provides one unified context that we will capitalize on from one year to another and from one class to another. In addition to that, the focus on New Mexico history or the impact of the Moorish influence in Mexico history relates to responsive education and how it increases students' engagement, attendance, and consequently achievement and scores as well. We aim to create very rigorous academic setting where students will utilize or combine multiple skills that they learn in different classes to create, as my colleague explained, to create, for instance, a replica, to utilize digital tools to create a replica of a building, for instance. In that process, they will utilize skills from math, science, engineering, and they will write reports, and also they will develop presentational skills. This is not the only thing that they will focus on. For instance, traditional medicine is something that has been transmitted with the Moorish influence on New Mexico. And there are programs that exist at UNM that teach traditional medicine. We intend to create partnerships with those programs, and this will allow our students to incorporate not only engineering and science, but also that relates to biology, health, and other science concepts. Central to our focus is advocating for the students or the priorities of Diazi Martinez. The focus on project-based learning and capitalizing on the Moorish influence in New Mexico will allow the students to have multiple means of engagement, multiple means of learning, and multiple means of representation when it comes to the assessment. And that will help students who are ELL learners, students with IEPs, students with special needs. Students will also, even coming from disadvantaged groups. Our focus on AI models and our intention to provide the tools that the students need in order for them to create these replicas and use these programs such as the CAD program, that will allow the students to get access to tools and apparatus that they would not be able to have access to outside of school context. So by doing that, we are helping students have access to educational tools that would give them access to expensive material that they wouldn't have access to outside of school. While doing so, we are not only preparing students for college, but also preparing students to the workplace. Let's say students want to graduate high school, but they want to gain some skills that they can use in the marketplace, in the workplace. For instance, our focus on AI technology, a responsible use of AI technology, and digital ways of creation. This will give students skills that they can use in the workplace. Also, in their senior and junior year, students will have the opportunity to have internships with existing businesses. For instance, students, while studying a unit on health and its relationship to genes and biology of New Mexicans as it relates to disease and types of genes transmitted with migration, students will have an opportunity to work with local health centers, for instance, to investigate how to handle those health issues. The goal for this will allow the students to have dual credits, to have internship experiences and opportunities that would allow them to have a certificate, for instance, or at least field experience in a certain field that they can capitalize on use after graduating. In addition to that, we are dedicated to providing rigorous education that will help students go to college, and we will create partnerships with programs at UNM such as engineering, traditional medicine, solar energy, and other programs as well. One more thing that what unique about us is that we're not only accommodating cultures in our school, we are capitalizing on cultures. For instance, studying the architectural designs that came with the Moors to New Mexico, we are also comparing those to the ones existed before. For instance, we can add the Indian oven and comparing it to an oven that came with the conquest. This also helps students investigate existing cultures that existed on the land before this conquest. The importance of this point is that we're not only tolerating cultures, we are not only accommodating cultures in our school, we are capitalizing on that and celebrating them. We understand that enrollment is a big issue in New Mexico, in Albuquerque. Because of that, our goal basically is to have about 80 students in the first year, and we know this is a very ambitious number, but we have contacted many individuals, we have had outreach activities, and we have had many members who said they will be sending their children, including some members who signed up tonight, and some of them appeared, but there was a confusion that happened when we had the first public forum, and there were, and the board called in only 6 individuals. Some individuals assumed that this was the end of it, and they left, basically. But they will be able to provide, I hope that they will be able to provide written statements as well. To address the point of enrollment, we will have more outreach efforts. We will pass brochures, we will have community gatherings, we will have fundraising efforts as well, and we will apply for multiple grants, including the CSP grant and there are other specific grants of our support for programs that have an AI integration. And that's something we will be applying for. There are also other international grants that we intend to apply for, because we will be offering Arabic as it relates to New Mexico history and the influence of the Moors, in addition to world history and North African history. There are programs that will support this kind of effort, including Qatar Foundation, and we are aware that Qatar Foundation has funded a program at UNM. So we are hopeful that we're going to get funding from sources like this. So we will be seeking other sources of funding, but we will work very hard to reach our enrollment targets. As I mentioned, we will have career pathways, and those career pathways eventually will make more students interested in our school as we move forward to the 2nd and the 3rd year. What's going to make students interested in our school is this unified context that the students will help the students achieve our interest and our work towards culturally responsive education and project-based learning, as I mentioned, as it relates to the influence of the Moors on New Mexico. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Who wants to go first? Questions? Okay, go ahead.
I will.
Board Member Benson.
All right. So thank you guys for your presentation. I'm curious about your school leadership. So on the slides that we were provided, you guys have really impressive, biographies as far as education, but I didn't see much about school leadership experience. So I'm in particularly, do any of you guys have experience in running a school or a charter school or teaching in a classroom with high school students? And what specific leadership experience do you have that will enable you to successfully start and operate a charter school?
Madam President, members of the board, and Superintendent Jerome Blakey. Yes, I am working on my administrative licensure, and I have worked along with a school leader, like as a shadowed a school leader for a year. My colleague Christopher Smith, he has his also administrative licensure, and he worked on certain capacities with our school leader. As I mentioned, we have had leadership capacities in different ways, not necessarily running a charter school, but we ran smaller programs in our schools. Both of us worked in high school. I did. I have teaching experience in K-12, middle school and high school as well. Christopher, as he mentioned, he also has had experience. One of our founding board members has been on the board for a private school for more than 5 years. Another board member has helped Siambra High School go through rechartering. So we have had some experience. As I mentioned in my introduction, in addition to that, we have a network of leaders in both charter schools and traditional schools who are going to help us, especially during the planning year. During the planning year, there are other individuals who have served on previous boards will join the board as basically as this founding team transition from being the founding team to the board during the planning year. There will be more members who will join and who have had experience running charter schools. Also, we will be attending trainings like monthly trainings with the CSP and other organizations. I personally will be attending the first year principal training course with CES, which is a cooperative education services, which is located here in New Mexico.
Okay. Board Member Martinez.
Madam President, thank you. I mean, I think the idea is wonderful. As a native New Mexican, I believe our New Mexico heritage and culture is very important. And go Spain for the World Cup. But so if your application is approved, there's many challenges and unknowns that will come to you. What areas do you feel you need to learn specifically about, and what type of support might you need to be successful?
Madam President, members of the board, and Superintendent Nike, thank you so much for this question. Again, as I mentioned in our introduction, and probably something that can be that we are aware of as founding team, even though probably we haven't had the concrete experience of running a charter school, but we have had good experience in achievements in different fields. So I believe that we will have the ability to grow with the job. And I think this question is a really good question as it relates to that. Thank you. So we will need help drafting really good laws that protect us, make sure we have good financial measures, like to make sure we are on track in terms of finance, in terms of abiding by the laws as it comes to dealing with students, families, and advocating for the needs of the diverse population of students and their families, not only the students, but it's also where they come from, their families. So these are always going to be something that we need to grow more into. We will probably need guidance, constant guidance on making decisions to adapt our practices and adapt our even bylaws as we move on. For instance, how would we measure proficiency in the first year? We have an initial thought on how we're going to measure proficiency, as you guys can see it on our goals. Probably this concept itself, there will be more guidance that's going to come to look more as more data comes in. So basically, we will need more guidance in looking for other sources as the school grows. One thing that we will really need help with is recruiting more students. We know that, as I mentioned, we know that recruitment is a tough piece, and creating partnerships, reaching out to families is always a challenge. But again, this is something that we will learn along the process, and we will test our practices. Hopefully our practices will be working. And if they're not working, we'll seek guidance from other individuals who have done better in the past in these regards.
Follow up if I could, Madam President. Especially here in New Mexico, it's important for individuals, students to understand culture, traditions, the history of New Mexico. What is your strategy for, or is there a strategy for recruiting Native New Mexicans who understand, know the culture and again traditions of New Mexico, and what does that look like for your curriculum and your projects and things like that?
Madam President, members of the board, and Superintendent Blakey, as my colleague mentioned, that one example of a project that the students will be involved in is looking into architectural sites, for instance, in New Mexico. And I did mention something related to Native American oven. So our goal is that as we delve into creating these projects, as we delve into reaching out to communities, looking into these buildings, for instance, not only the architecture, not only doing architectural engineering, we're also looking at irrigation systems, we're looking at biology and genealogy, migration. As we go into these disciplines, our goal is to create partnerships with those organizations or facilities. We will have our students will go on field trips. And our goal is to create those partnerships with the individuals at those sites, and that will be a recruiting strategy for us. Maybe these individuals will be teaching units for our students. And this is a very specific concept related to funds of knowledge. Dealing with funds of knowledge, building funds of knowledge, and utilizing funds of knowledge is bringing experts in the field to come to, not necessarily to the classroom, but to be available to the students to teach in specific units that are specific to this. For instance, my colleague mentioned students will be looking at arches, and as they pertain to design, looking at arches, for instance, students can talk about, in their science class, they can talk about gravity, they can talk about force, fraction. In their math class, they can talk about equations, linear equations. There will be multiple concepts. As our teachers guiding our students in the class to deal with these ones, other individuals from the field will be on contact with our students to teach them how to do this. So basically, the students will be indirectly apprenticed in certain skills. So that connection between community members and our students in our school will invite those individuals to be part of our community, and hopefully their students will be part of us as well. In addition to that, we will have intentional campaigns, education sessions, and meetings with community leaders in the tribes and different community members, including, for instance, the Hispanic National Center, to invite them to be part of our school in different capacities and to recruit students to our school as well.
Thank you. Board member.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you, Madam President.
I had to breathe.
I know it's a long name. Thank you for being here this evening, and thank you for your presentation. I looked through the presentation and all of the supporting documentation, and I cannot find a location. Do you have a location yet for this proposed charter? And if you do, how far along are you in, do you have a building? Are you in lease negotiations? Where are you at?
Madam President, members of the board, and Superintendent Blakey, we don't have a facility set yet.
Okay.
But we have been in the market. We have been in contact with different individuals to seek a place. At one stage, there was a church that said that we can rent their facility at a low cost. Today, I was in a conversation with my mentor who tried to connect me to, maybe I should not mention the name, but another charter school who have a facility that they are not using fully. So we will be probably using part of their building. And this is still a possibility. However, we want to be very intentional when it comes to the location of the school. We want a location where there's easy access to, there's not much traffic, a safe location, transportation is available for students. Also, we are prioritizing areas with a higher number of high school student population. And that's we understand the importance of the location for student recruitment and attendance as well. So all of these factors together, we are in the market, we are looking, we are in contact with different individuals, and we are hopeful that we're going to be able to secure a building very early during the planning year.
Are you done? Go ahead.
Actually, I have one more question. I'm pro education first, pro public education, charter, then private. I want kids to be educated. I think they need to have access to it. We all feel that way, I think. I think that there's a feeling that charter schools take resources from the public schools. And I'm not here to make a value judgment on that, but what can this charter school provide that APS cannot?
Madam President, members of the board, and Superintendent Blakey, we will offer smaller class sizes. We will offer intentional project-based learning that we intentionally provide a framework that capitalizes on students' backgrounds. We will advocate for students. We intentionally advocate for students in terms of the Yaz Martinez priorities. We are one of the few schools. We are the only school that's going to be intentionally teaching AI, and there was a discussion about that earlier today. We are teaching responsible use of AI. Instead of telling students you cannot use AI, we are intentionally teaching them how to use it responsibly. And by teaching it responsibly, we mean that it's going to be ethical use. Students will be looking for credible sources, using AI to find credible sources, recognizing biases, and making judgments, using AI as a tool, not as an end. They will be using it to be prepared for the future, to be creating 3D models. Instead of writing the codes themselves, they will use AI ethically to help them write the codes, for instance. Instead of spending hours to create a model on CAD that would help them create a replica of a building, for instance, or an arch, they can resort to AI. This is responsible use of AI. Responsible use of AI that saves time and saves energy without jeopardizing critical skills. We are intentionally teaching students critical skills. We, as I said, we are offering smaller class sizes. We will prioritize student safety as well. And that's something that we will take seriously. We will have restorative practices in place in case misbehaviors take place, but we will take misbehavior and any threats to student safety very seriously. I hope I answered your question.
You did, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for being here. I know this is a big process to go through, so we appreciate you taking the time to sit in front of us and answer our questions. I reviewed your executive summary, and specifically at the bottom of page 16, you state that community support has for ANSA has been substantial. And then you mention that more than 30 families indicated they would seriously consider enrolling their children. So my question is, we as a school district across the nation are experiencing decreases in enrollment, not increases in enrollment. And how, given that you stated that interest is substantial, how do you plan to open with 80 students and grow to 5 times that number in 4 years?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Blakey, thank you for the question. As I mentioned earlier, we understand that enrollment is a serious challenge for schools in general and charter schools in particular. Yet we, I'm gonna go back to this point, like when family members indicated interest, they indicated interest in the framework, they indicated interest in sending their children, and they have also informed some of the parts of the application. To that extent, they were pretty much involved. For instance, they gave us some concepts to add to the application. For instance, traditional medicine, that was not initial one thing that we thought about, that came actually from the community. This is just to show that those meetings were very meaningful and they were deep conversations. Related to recruitment and growth, we have a clear partnership with, for instance, Islamic Center in Mexico. And there are many members of the community said that they will be sending their children there. And they will strongly consider it. Of course, there's nothing 100% confirmed, but like these were strong confirmations. As we move on during this planning year, from day one, once we receive the approval, we will be launching campaigns. We will be having social media ads. We will be having TV ads. We will be walking door to door, inviting people to educating them about our school. And we understand that it might be a challenge getting 80 kids in the first year. If we get close to that number, we'll be satisfied. And we are sure that we will also utilize activities that we use in our the first year of opening. We will share videos, we will share projects on our website, and we will share student achievements. And that will be a good way for us to invite more students to come on. So we do expect that it will be more challenging at the beginning, but once our model is in effect, and once we have students, once there's data that we can share to the community, we believe that we will grow. Looking at other charter schools, there are charter schools right now who have over 600 students in high school. And there are other schools who have more, not necessarily more in high school, but in generally speaking, there are high schools with over 1,000 children, not in high school, but like in totality. So basically enrollment, I feel if the program is strong, if it's rigorous, if it's shown to the community, if there's a clear communication with different institutions, people will consider sending their children to the school.
Can you follow up? So just to follow up on that. So it sounds like you are starting with a small circle, right? You've gone to the small circle and you have a plan or have a concept of how to broaden that circle. But to broaden that circle, there are operational costs associated with that. You named off a whole bunch of operations and processes that need to happen. Have you worked into a budget, into finances as to how you're going to balance the academics that you believe will generate enrollment through word of mouth? Have you balanced that against the operational costs that you're going to have to push out in order to expand your enrollment? Because it's not just word of mouth that drives students to a school.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Blakey. Yes, we do understand that it does need more than that, and we do understand that there is a cost for that. One point that I'd like to address before inviting Chris to talk about the budget piece as it relates to this. Even if we don't meet our targets, we will make adjustments, but that's not gonna be at the expense of the rigor or the services that we provide to the students. We'll probably downsize our school building. We'll downsize certain elements, but that's not gonna be at the expense of the quality of education, or we will not going to jeopardize our mission or vision or the services that we provide to our students. I believe Chris can speak better to the money piece about this.
So as far as community outreach, marketing, advertising, obviously there is a financial piece to that, right? Because there's some stuff that you can do in-house that doesn't cost, but ultimately there is a cost. As we said earlier, we are going to apply to the CSP grant. The CSP grant specifically has allocations for marketing and advertising for the first 5 years of school operation. In the event that we don't receive that, obviously we will make adjustments to make sure that we can meet these goals, right? That we can market, and we can advertise without, once again, jeopardizing the inspection of the students, being able to pay our bills, being financially responsible, right? But yeah, in the event that we do receive CSP allocations, we will make sure that there's a large appropriation of marketing and advertising, as that is allowable with the CSP grant. If that grant isn't obtainable, if it has to come out of operational, we can make adjustments. But we are once again looking at other grants and aggressively applying for those grants as soon as possible. And we are also looking into founding a foundation who will also be applying for grants that aren't necessarily allowable, not allowable, but can't be applied by charter schools, but can be applied for by 501c3 foundations. So that's kind of our plan as far as marketing covering marketing and advertising costs.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead. Yeah. Anybody else? Go ahead.
I probably have one more. So it's my understanding that charter schools are intended to provide innovative educational opportunities, project-based learning, STEM, dual credit, cultural responsive instruction, multilingual support, and AI literacy are all approaches that currently exist in some form within APS or other charter schools. So can you identify the 2 or 3 specific components of your model that are genuinely innovative and unavailable to students in any existing public school here in Albuquerque or the surrounding area right now?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Blakey, our model brings all of these pieces together. Again, when we talk about cultural responsive education, we're not approaching it as something we do because we want only to help the students in isolation. It is the lens through which the whole model comes together. We are celebrating culture, like this is the starting point. Eventually, we want to be looked at, we are the culture stars, charter school. It is a charter school about cultures. This is the starting point. And this is very unique to us. Like schools do advocate for cultural responsive education. There are schools who do that. There are schools who do project-based learning, but we are putting all of these together. We are also adding the AI component. And this is something teachers are very frustrated. Educators are very, very frustrated right now with the advancement of AI. We want our school to be the school the students say, I want to go there because I want to learn AI skills that I can use for my work. Even if I'm going to be doing carpentry, for instance, or something, instead of how can it help me? We will give the students skills, math skills, and computer skills that will help them in the workplace. So we are the school that's going to bring all of this together. And So as I said, the two key points will be AI integration using culture as the lens through which. And the beautiful thing about the Andalusian impact in New Mexico is not only about the Moorish influence. It is the thing that really integrated a lot of other, it kind of integrated with other cultures as well. As I mentioned in my previous example, there's a clear example, clear integration between the Native American culture and the Moorish culture when it comes to design. When I came to New Mexico for the first time and I went to the Pueblo in Taos, I was very amazed when I saw the Horno, what they say, Horno, and we had the same thing in Egypt, and it wasn't like what was amazing to me is comparing the base. Here they build it like wider, and when I thought about it, probably that offers more support, even though because the walls were a little bit thicker. In Egypt, we build it like narrower, and that's how they made it. This is how they support the symmetrical shape of it. So to me, these are interesting cultural exchanges and cultural interactions that can be capitalized on. And bringing that and relating that to technology, relating that to engineering, relating that to other disciplines is going to be the unique thing. Also, we will offer, because of our focus on cultural history of New Mexico and project-based learning, we will also have CTE opportunities for the students. We envision students getting a certificate in different disciplines before they graduate. And hopefully that will help them go to the workplace, even if they don't go to college.
Okay,
Are you done?
one more. Are you done?
I just want to, it's almost like a word of warning that when you get too many focuses, it's hard to, like I was at a school that I did project-based learning in STEM, and it was intense to make sure that you were bringing all of that, like I taught computers and making sure that I was incorporating it all, but also the math teacher was and the language arts teacher. And you're talking about a lot of different focals, and trying to do it with fidelity is going to be, I think you're going to struggle. And so it's just more of a word of warning that you don't want to, it's broad. What you're trying to do, take on is very broad. And I think it could be a struggle. So that's just my opinion. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you, President Tomorito. So my question is regarding governance, and I'm curious if you've given any thought or have a plan how you will have your board members balance monitoring academic performance and financial health with without becoming overly involved with day-to-day operations.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Blakey, we have drafted bylaws that state the different roles of the head administrator. The head administrator will be just responsible for the day-to-day operations of the school. Board members will be completely independent. They will be managing governance, will be revisiting the bylaws. They will be making policies, revisiting policies, approving budget. There will be multiple committees, like a finance committee, there will be internal control committee, there will be academic committee, and all of those will have different roles. So here, the board of directors are going to be both the monitors for the head administrator, and at the same time, helping the head administrator to offer them guidance and offer them support without interfering in their processes. Our government body will have their monthly meetings. They will be looking at data that's going to be brought to them by the head administrator. So the head administrator will be reporting to the board of directors. They will be looking into data and they will be either offering corrective plans, and also offering insights on how to improve. We envision we already have an individual with expertise in finance on our founding members who's gonna be a member of the board. We envision having a member also with legal background, and that also will help keep this role on track, basically, and separate from each other.
Thank you.
Board Member Jackson.
Thank you. So I was reviewed the the capacity interview summary. And this is kind of in regards to what Board Member Betson was asking you about, is some of the feedback that's coming through the summary is that this is a rich, uniquely innovative concept, but that there's a struggle with lack of prioritization. So my question is, you'll be starting small and growing into the mission that you have stated. So very simply, what are your immediate priorities when you start? I think you've given us a very robust description of what your concept is, but getting started, what are your immediate priorities? And what part of your mission will you try to tackle first?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Blakey. One thing that I learned from throughout my educational experience and through my mentors as well is there's always going to be balance between the different parts, especially when we're dealing with multiple pieces like this framework. So basically at the beginning, we will have one concept that's going to be doing very well. We will focus on one of those pieces that we will be doing very well. And the other ones will be touching on in the first year, for example, depending on the body of students that we have, depending on the resources and the numbers of students and the facility and all of these pieces together. So the one thing that we want our students, that we want first from the very, very beginning is to assess students, deal with, basically understand our students. That will be the first thing that we will need to do. We'll be having our students do projects. Through those projects, we will gain an understanding of the skills that they have and the skills that they need. That will be like the first thing that we will do. In terms of the framework itself, we don't expect students, for instance, to be creating replicas from year one, if that's like what you're looking at here. We're not going to teach engineering skills the first year, for instance. We will be teaching the overall concepts. We're going to be starting with 9th and 10th grade classes. So for 9th and 10th grade, we'll need to teach basic algebraic expressions in the math class. We'll be teaching world history. So basically we will start with a project that incorporates all of those skills without getting too deep into, for instance, the innovative piece when it comes to creating replicas or using AI. So basically at the beginning, just prioritizing skills, prioritizing, standards that the students need to have. So that will be the starting point. Prioritizing the standards that the students need for 9th and 10th grade. While doing that, we are not lowering the rigor. We are not really cutting any programs. We're just offering what the students need to learn or be involved in 9th and 10th grade. As we move on to the next year, we will be adding other components of the curriculum.
Thank you.
Madam President, can I catch it? One more question. I didn't see a starting date. Are we when is the starting date of this?
If approved, they get an entire year. They're ready to open year. They'll work with us, get their facilities, things like that. So the goal would then be next August.
Great, thank you.
I have a few questions, and this is only pertaining to your application. I wanted to know, how come you have so many enter here texts and click here to enter the text that you didn't complete it? So it sort of says to me, did you review your application? Did you make sure that those things were adhered to and that you put information in there? And I'm only citing this because if those basic things are not done, we cannot approve this. Okay? So I don't know, you're aware of those particular areas?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Leakey. So the application was done on a PDF document. That PDF document, like in order to write on it, you have to convert it into a Word document. And when we submitted the application, we sent the print to the business manager to print, and then they were delivered to the commission. But then also we submitted a Word document. And I believe that the Word document should include the complete application, not like this one. So this is a technical issue. The answers were there, but I feel that you had to click on something to see the full page on the Word document. But when for print, it doesn't show the entire response, but the entire responses were there.
Yeah, the school has completed the entire application, so we can definitely look and
Okay.
see what access issue or whatever, to make sure that you guys have the completed application.
That would be great. Thank you. Also, there was some inconsistencies in regards to your founding team and governance. You had one board member that you provided a full biography as a founding governing board member, but his name was omitted on your names, roles, and current employment. And so I don't know, there's just some of those little inconsistencies that are there. Another area was you had a former this guy, Numar Latif. He is described in his bio as a former executive director of Southwest Rural and Indigenous Renewable Resource Center. But the summary table lists his current job as project teachers, Simbra Charter School. So it's trying to figure out what is what. So that's something you need to look into. Also, the individuals on your planning year team include members whose roles are not fully defined in the narrative. And it does not align perfectly with the applicant team table provided in the earlier document. So that's another inconsistency. And then there's data and clinical errors. Your enrollment timeline, the enrollment summary table, year 5 is listed as 2021. Given this is 2026, application intended for 2027 opening, this is incorrect, okay? And then your enrollment jump, unrealistic enrollment jump, and we just talked about that a little while ago. The other area is your unaddressed regulatory requirements, your failure to detail the waivers. You're leaving that waiver section blank, so I don't know whether or not in a printed that's going to be included. Missing partnership evidence. The narrative mentions a collaborative relationship with Vertex Education for budgeting and financial policies. The section for providing evidence of the partnership, section I1 is left blank. So they're not listed. these are just, those are just the areas that are of concern because we as a board can't pass it if those things are not taken care of. I do have another concern is the laws for students and families, the federal requirements and the laws that you do need. We as a board, and you have your governing board, but we make sure there are those issues of compliance are critical. So one is you need to address that area. And I don't know, based on APS board office, because those are our particular needs when we review your application and we make sure that funding resources that are being provided, especially if there are those federal requirements and compliances. So I would strongly address that this particular area that you know what those are, because that is our role as we service you as a charter school. And I'm glad you're getting your bylaws. But yes, the budget is another critical area. Those are just merely my comments on the application, but I do strongly suggest you fix those areas because we can't pass it. So those are my questions in this whole thing, or my comments. So is there anything else anybody wants to say? No? So I don't know if you have any more questions for us as a board.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Blakey, I'd just like to address that inconsistency in the information.
Yes.
I believe these two questions ask two different questions, and that's why I think not all the members listed here were listed in the other parts. I think that was the reason for not everybody was listed here. As for the individual whose job was mentioned, at one point we just offered in terms of his biography, we offered like what really pertains to how he's going to contribute, like his expertise, how he's going to contribute. The other one was just relating to like his current position. He's currently a teacher, but his expertise is in renewable energy, in solar energy, and he would be helping us with creating partnerships because he works still in some capacity with UNM engineering department. So these were the reasons where like we listed them differently. As for the waivers, I think there was an optional piece, even though we did discuss that and we haven't made final decisions, but it's kind of a common understanding. For instance, a waiver for teaching load instead of our current model does ask teachers to teach like 7 periods a day. And in high school, they have 2 prep periods with 1 day, like short day on Friday. That's for professional development, which is very similar to, it does not need at this stage a waiver, but in the future, as we move on, as we want students to be involved in internships outside of school, and students will be more on, especially for like junior and senior years, we will add those waivers. So it doesn't really pertain to our opening year or probably the second year, but in the future, we will be looking into those ones.
And it's great to note that. Yes, so that's why I'm citing that if those things aren't there, then there's no way we can pass this. Okay?
So that's the question. Do you still want us to write something about this, or you want it to be left blank for the time being? Like those waivers,
Well, I just think by you explaining to us, that at least gives a definition, like we're looking into this year 2, year 1. So that way, when we look at it, it's just not blank with no reasoning for what's going on. Okay? All right. Thank you very much. And we'll see you August 19th. Thank you.
That little statement
at the bottom. Yeah. Yes. And I just need to note a few things here pursuant to section 22 88B-6K, NMSA 1978. A recording of tonight's hearing will be prepared for review by any board members who were not present. Those materials will become part of the official record considered by the board prior to its final action as on the application. The full Board of Education will meet to make a final determination to approve with conditions or deny this charter application on August 19, 2026 at 5 p.m. here in the John Milne Community Boardroom. The time is now 8:17 and this community input hearing is officially adjourned. Thank you. We will now give the school representatives a moment to leave. Oh, they already left quietly. They did it while I was reading. I didn't look up. And while we're waiting, board members can please fill out the hearing compliance affirmation form and pass it to me to give us a little time. Thank you. Okay, we got it, guys. Now, finally, on item number 7, we have a discussion item here, and I don't know if anybody wants to discuss it, but we're creating an ad hoc committee to review the Board of Education governance manual. Yeah, everybody get happy for that. And we don't need to vote on this. And I'm just putting this committee together because we right now there's many things in our governance manual that either have to be revised, taken out, and I'm happy that I do have 3 board members who are willing to take this on as their work. And those individuals who will head the committee will be board member Heather Benavides. Yay. Congratulations. And the other 2 board members who will support her and be right there by her is Joshua Martinez. Yeah. He's our new and incoming board member. And Heather has been here for almost 3 years. And then we have a expert that is going to be on this committee, and that is Courtney Jackson. So we got all levels taken care of to have them revise that. So at our next meeting, no, it's September. Was that when we were going to do the initial? Oh, thank you. See what happens when I don't have the detail. So in September, September 9th, we'll do a special Board of Education meeting to do the first read to discuss the ad hoc's recommendations. There are 2 areas, and I'll get with Chair Benavides, that we do not want to touch at this moment, and that will be our evaluation of the superintendent and the goals and the guardrails. And we'll get this timeline out to the committee. Thank you. Is there any discussion? Do we all agree? And I know it's like getting late and charter schools and all of those things have caused us to be a little ready to go. All right, we'll go ahead. We'll have, there's no discussion. So we're going to go ahead and formalize this committee. And I thank the 3 board members that are willing to do this work. It's not easy, but thank you. Thank you all. So now we're heading into a very important superintendent's report.
Madam President, members of the board, we are well on our way to be ready to open the 2026-2027 school year in just a few weeks. Last week, our Maintenance and Operations Department hosted a custodian appreciation event to recognize the incredible work of our custodians across the district. Throughout the summer, they have been preparing our schools for the first day by cleaning classrooms, maintaining our buildings and grounds, checking building systems, and making sure every campus is ready to welcome students into a safe, clean, and inviting learning environment in August. They have worked incredibly hard behind the scenes all summer, and this event was a small way to thank them for the important role they play in supporting our students and staff every day. This is just a reminder to all of you that on Monday, we will kick off our Administrators Back to School event at Albuquerque High. This year's theme is Passing the Torch, and it is about the responsibility that we all share to build on the work of those who came before us and to leave APS stronger for those who follow. It reflects our commitment to serving our students, supporting each other, and ensuring that each generation of educators and leaders helps prepare the next for success. It also connects to something that I talk about often, the power of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Our students are listening. They hear how we talk about APS, about their schools, about one another, and about what they are capable of achieving. Those messages shape how they see themselves and what they believe is possible. When we consistently speak with hope, pride, and high expectations, we help create the culture and confidence that allows students to succeed. Passing the torch is not only about the work we do, but also about the beliefs that we pass on through our words, our actions, and the example that we set every day. Our theme will continue on August 4th with our second annual APS Rising Educator Summit, which is presented in partnership with our Albuquerque Teachers Federation. More than 7,000 APS employees. I swear every time I say that number, it gets bigger. It was like 5,000, 6,000, now we're at 7,000. So that's a little scary. So 7,000 APS employees are expected to participate, and we hope that you can join us. This will be at the Convention Center. We have a lot of work ahead of us, as you heard in the progress monitoring reports, and we are confident that we are setting up to deliver on a successful school year for our students. And so with that, that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Now, for my report, we had an email that came to us from our constituents concerning our committee meetings. And they expressed concerns. And what I want to reiterate is that our public meetings are an important part of maintaining transparency and accountability. And I appreciate those who take the time to observe our work, probably critique us too, but then they also reach out to let us know how they support us. So as president, I believe every board member has both the right and the responsibility to ask questions and exercise independent judgment. At the same time, we all share an obligation to conduct ourselves in a manner that reflects our board's adopted governance principles, demonstrates respect for one another, and supports productive working relationships with district staff. The one thing that has been really hard, especially for those who do take on this responsibility as board, is remembering we are a team. I know when I first came on this board, I thought I'm gonna fight the world, I'm gonna get things done for special ed, I'm gonna do all these things, but didn't resonate with everyone here has to work toward that effort. And we have to just remember our commitments, our governance commitments that clearly define our distinction between the board's role of oversight and the superintendent's role of managing district operations, which sometimes is greatly misunderstood, especially when you have no idea as a board how that works. So those expectations also emphasize professionalism, preparedness, respectful communication, and speaking with one voice once board decisions have been made. When concerns arise regarding board conduct or governance practices, they are addressed through the board's established governance processes rather than through public debate. Those processes are designed to ensure accountability while preserving public trust in board's work. Our focus remains where it belongs, ensuring sound financial stewardship, supporting student success, and making decisions that are in the best interest of all students and families we serve. I remain committed to working collaboratively with every board member to strengthen governance, maintain public confidence, and uphold the responsibilities entrusted to us by our committee. I just wanted to bring that forth because many times within our role as a board member, we don't recognize that the public is watching us. The public does see what we're doing, and in their support of us is also that reflection of what are we doing to help them to understand our roles as a board member. And that's where sometimes it can become clouded. So I just wanted to reflect on that. And, the one thing I really wanted to reflect on, but didn't because of time, was Toy Story 5. How many of you seen Toy Story 5? And who understands Lily Pad? And are looking at technology, I suggest you go see that movie. And it talks about technology does not control us, it's governed by us. So just remember those little stories. I'm one that always goes see kid movies because when I ever get in the schools, those are the questions I bring up because those kids have seen those movies. And I can tell you high schoolers have seen the Toy Story because it reflects on their lives and what they do. But anyway, I'm going to end on that. And I suggest just go see it. It's a great movie. But I've seen it all the years. I've seen 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But thank you very much. And we now will go into our executive session. Oh.
That's the next meeting for the.
Oh, sorry. Wednesday, August 5th, 2026 at 5 p.m. We will meet here at Alice and Bruce King Educational Complex, in case you forgot the name of the building, 6400 Uptown Boulevard. And we're also live stream on APS EDU. So thank you. Do I need to hit the?
I will need to vote to go into executive.
Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm leaving everything out. So we're going to go ahead and consider approval of the Board of Education to convene an executive session as authorized by the Open Meeting Act, Section 10-15-1 H8, to discuss the deposition of real property within the APS district in Bernalillo County. I need a motion and a second.
I can move for approval for the Board of Education to convene an executive session as authorized by the Open Meetings Act, Section 10-15-1 HB, to discuss the disposition of real property within the APS district in Bernalillo County. This is Board Member Benavides.
Thank you.
I'll second. This is Member Jackson.
Okay, Board Member Benavides, motion to move into executive session, and Board Member Jackson, second. Any discussion? All right, let's take a vote.
Rebecca Betson,
Yes.
Joshua Martinez.
Yes.
Benavides.
Yes.
Courtney Jackson.
Yes.
Ronaldo Tomorito.
Yes. The meeting will reconvene to open session in person only after the executive session to make a statement of closure and adjourn. At this time, I ask those people who are